Virginia, a fresh local sports talk show about having a good time in the sunshine of San Diego.
Because we've been working so hard. I forgot what it's like to be hard at work.
With your hosts, Annie Heilbrunn and Craig Elsten. Ooh, yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah. Great Monday morning to you. Let's get after it. Time for another week of Annie and Elsten here. Your new midday hang on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. My name's Craig Elsten. Annie Heilbrunn is away. She'll be back. It's day 3 of the 4-day Annie interregnum. This is the final gulf that we must cross in order to get to the soft relaunch of Annie and Elsten coming Wednesday morning when Annie will be back with this show full time. We've brought it all through before, but I think it certainly bears repeating as audiences cycle in and out that prior to taking this job, Annie was working with San Diego Sports Association, a job that continues, and not her primary, not her only, but she is a major part and had agreed to be a major part of the steering and the planning committees for this year's Salute to Champions, which is STSA's annual gigantic event when they induct players into the Breitbart Hall of Champions. And it is tonight. It is tonight in La Jolla. Hopefully they've already checked for flooding and done the sandbagging around the ballroom for this one, as we've got the atmospheric river cruising its way into San Diego this morning already in North County and kind of drifting its way southward. Nonetheless, Annie was out the last 2.5 days of last week. She's out the first 2 days of this week for tonight's actual event and tomorrow's kind of cleanup and wind down and whatnot. And then we will have our talk show together and moving forward on a day in, day out basis. Now, of course, Braden Suprenant, our ever able-bodied sidekick and producer, is here, and Braden is once again stepping up to help fill in here during these days when Annie is out. So good morning, my friend. How was your weekend?
It was good. Had a fun weekend. It was a good time volunteering my time at Career Day at Cathedral on Friday. I know you were a part of one at your son's school on Friday as well. So part of Career Day, it was really cool to talk to a lot of kids that were interested in coming into, this industry. I was in the entertainment and arts group. So Monica Dean, who is a uni alum from NBC 739 across the street, was with my group. We also had a real estate photog, we also had an artist, and we also had a podcast host. So we were all able to spread our wealth of knowledge about how people should never get into this industry ever. And just kidding. But the kids were really, really into it, which was super cool. There were definitely some groups that were into it a little bit more than others. I think it's because you basically had to prioritize your group setting on which one you wanted to see first, which one you wanted to see second and third. And so you could tell which group was like the real interested group. But that was fun. That night ended up calling the St. Augustine Cathedral Catholic basketball game at Cathedral, which was a good time. It was fun. Saints really good in basketball, outdid the Dons on Friday night. But I got to see the video board in person for the first time. That was a impressive feat that the Dons have in their gym. So that was my Friday. Saturday, it's going to be probably part of my what's good today, Craig. The USD women's basketball team, and I'm going to say it a little bit more later, but they got their first victory in a very long time. And Cindy Fisher, I got to interview her after the game as part of the broadcast. She almost had like a tear rolling down her face of the excitement she saw with a lot of the young girls that hadn't, been giving them their best effort and just been coming up short and leads getting blown late. And, to lose 15 to 16 games, to lose 11 straight at the D1 level, and then to finally get a victory and upset USF, who is, near the top of the standings. It was a cool thing to see, and their excitement on their face when they got the win, knowing that they were more than capable of doing so a couple of times before. That was pretty cool to be able to be part of that. And then, of course, Sunday being able to do the show in my normal time slot. Next week will be a little different with the Super Bowl, but it was good. Overall, good weekend. A lot of work being done.
Yeah, you worked both days. You had a work end.
I had a workend. I
I've
worked
had
every
plenty of
single day.
workends.
But had a good time. And then yesterday it was cool. So my sister was in town for one of her friends' weddings. And so yesterday, when waiting to send her off to the airport, we went to Coronado, had a little family day walking through Coronado. And it was a beautiful day in Coronado yesterday before the storm rolled in, obviously. But it was good to get some family time mixed in as well. So family time, some work stuff. Overall, good, solid weekend.
Outstanding, sir. Well, we are here live local sports talk for you from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. today when Gwen and Chris roll in. We've got plenty scheduled on the show this morning. You know, it's a Monday, so we've got all of our kind of regular setup segments. Plus, we had a big interview this morning on Ben and Woods that'll definitely be the topic of focus in our Padres Hour in the 11 a.m. hour. Coming up at the bottom of this hour, we'll do what's good, as Braden already alluded to, our current weekly Monday segment. Once we get into Annie and Elsten 2.0, Braden, I don't know, we might upgrade that to a more than a Monday segment into a daily nook of positivity of what's good. And that certainly doesn't have to be from one of our sports teams, but we'll be talking about what's good from the weekend coming up at the bottom of the hour. Again, Eric Grupner was on with Ben and Woods, the CEO of the San Diego Padres, at 8 o'clock this morning. Who knows if you had the ability to listen to that? If you're listening to the midday shift, maybe you didn't. Maybe you weren't, maybe you're a later riser or somebody who's dealing with their kids in the morning and didn't have a chance to listen to Ben and Woods. We'll play you the key cuts from Eric Grupner's interview coming up at 11 a.m. So stay tuned for that. It's almost like we've got him back as a guest on the show. We'll play that at 11 a.m. We'll use the rest of the hour for our reaction to it and also for your reaction to it on the phones at 833-288-0973. In the second hour, we'll take some calls and some reaction to that. Coming up at 12 o'clock, of course, it's our daily segment, the 12 o'clock Sports Fix, where we'll get you caught up on all of the weekend results from our local teams, whether it's college basketball or arena sports. We'll take a look at what's happening in Vegas with the Super Bowl and all the latest from the professional major leagues as well. Coming up in the 12 o'clock Sports Fix, we get you reset on the entire sports day in 10 minutes or less. 12:45 is where Braden and I have officially landed the daily game show here on Annie and Elsten. Working title for the daily, because it's three different games, Braden, that'll be rotating in one segment. We just can't call it Immaculate Game or Fast Money or Hot Potato. So silly games.
Silly games.
12:45 is silly games. And the silly games that we play, we will have our first actual official silly game today at 12:45. And Braden, what are the fans playing for this month?
That's good. That's a good question. It is, in fact, a trip to Vegas. I have the full details on that on our sheets that for some reason didn't pull up, but I'll let you know about that in a second.
Okay, outstanding. Hang on, wait, I've got it.
There you go.
Grand prize 2-night stay at Westgate, Las Vegas, and 2 tickets to see Air Supply. Get to see Air Supply live. Outstanding. So 2 nights at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino, plus tickets to see Air Supply. We are going to be qualifying fans all month long, not only in the morning show, the afternoon show, but here on Annie and Elsten in our Silly Games segment. Today's silly game is Immaculate Game. And so if you listen to Sammy and Elsten on Friday when Sam Levitt filled in, we had kind of a dry run on that. We've done a tiniest of tiny little tweaks, and we're ready to go to take on the public in Immaculate Game. As we learned, Braden, on Friday, certainly not impossible for me to lose at Immaculate Game, as I am currently 0-1. So
I heard you got rattled by the setup. We got to get that.
Well,
we got to rewire your brain a little bit.
That
That's
is
fine.
my
Hey, you know
excuse.
what?
I'm a visual player.
It's the first time getting thrown into it from a different kind of view of it. That happens to the best of us. I totally see where you're coming from on that.
Yeah. So with the tiniest of tweaks to try and help my addled mind, we're going to take on Immaculate Game today at 12:45. All of that coming up. Of course, we'll wrap up the show with Ask Us Anything. That is our call-in / write-in segment where you can ask Braden or I, anything. That's coming up to wrap up the show. So full show. Lots of things happening. As you can see, we're in month 2 now of Annie and Elsten. It's kind of been for the last 2.5 weeks, Annie or Elsten. as the show. That's about to change. We're 2 shows away from doing that, and we're very excited to have the titular namesake of Annie and Elsten back on Annie and Elsten coming up in a couple of shows. Real quick, before we get to our first break, spring training begins for the Padres on Sunday. Pitchers and catchers official report date is Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, the 11th. Then by Friday, the full camp will be expected to report. February 16th is the official start of full camp. That's when public practices start at the Peoria Sports Complex. That's when they'll start opening up the sports complex at 9 a.m. for fans to come in and check out what's happening on the main fields, on the back fields, leading up eventually to spring training Cactus League games, which will be starting before you know it. It'll be starting before you know it, Braden. And the Padres are now, and they are really taking us down to the edge, brother. They are taking us down to the edge with the be patient, hang on, maybe something will happen. After listening to Eric Grupner this morning, I am less and less convinced that the Padres are even going to do anything. He said that there was an incomplete roster. So it's time to complete the roster, Padres. However you're going to complete that roster, I'm here to tell you that the value you're seeking on the market is starting to become compromised by the amount of time you have remaining, which is less than all the other teams, to get your club locked in and together. Our opening day isn't March 28th, it's March 20th.
It's a lot earlier than everybody else. That's why they're reporting to camp earlier, and talked about it a little bit yesterday. But yes, it is an incomplete roster. And based on the interview with Bennett Woods, it sounded like they are totally fine with starting a bunch of young players, which, I got some flack for that on social media for no reason, because I, said it. I don't think it's going to be the best of ideas. But that's what they're going to go with. And you know what? I hope it works out. I hope that they could go with the young guys in the outfield, and I hope they've arrived earlier than anticipated. But I really think that not only are the Padres, based on that last interview and everything that we've seen showing up to this moment in time, but I really think the Padres' plan right now is we're going to reset the CBT, which we knew, and we're going to do it by letting our young guys play maybe earlier than expected, maybe earlier than necessary. So I hope it works out. I hope there's no backfiring, but it seems like we're putting all of our eggs in the prospect basket right now, and we're going to have everybody fill in with our top prospects.
At least 2 times, I think 3, Grupner said we don't have a complete roster. And those are words I'm going to cling to like I'm clinging to the edge of Niagara Falls.
It's factual.
On a wet rope.
It's the 40-man roster only has 2 outfielders listed on it. Regardless, it's just they can't deny that they have a complete roster. They don't have a complete roster.
In fact, I would say they have 1 major league outfielder on their roster, and then they have 1 not quite major league outfielder that we've seen in the major leagues a couple of times, and that is
I would agree with that.
So it's time, Padres. It's time. We've been value bargain hunting. We have been waiting for something to slip through the cracks. Teams are about to report. Yes, the Padres and Dodgers start early. And by the way, the Dodgers get a 2-day jump on the Padres. Why?
They wanted to.
First year manager. Why isn't full squad reporting Wednesday for the Padres? And give us a little bit of this jump. We keep talking about we're going to see young players get a chance to prove themselves in spring training. There aren't 33 Cactus League games. There's 20. And then you're going to take your major league team to Korea. You're going to play 2 exhibitions in Korea, but you're going to play your major league team there because opening day will be 2 days later. So you can't bring 40 guys to Korea to throw in an maybe they will. Maybe they're getting a jumbo jet. I don't know. But you have to have your major league team ready to go by the 13th of March. That is when camp breaks in Peoria. We're talking about camp starting. Camp's going to break a month and 2 days after it starts. So here to say It is now time for the Padres. We have had fun with it for the last month, for this first month that we've been on the air, Braden. We've joked around. We did 2.5 weeks straight of let's make a trade every single day on the show until finally the team still didn't make a trade. They at least signed a player. There was another reliever, but they at least signed a player to the team and indicated a pulse and a beat of life here. I am positive that there will be more additions to the San Diego Padres. I'm until I am definitively proven wrong, I do not believe we're going to start a kid who is an Arizona Fall League MVP as a starting player in the major leagues the very next spring. I can't imagine that the Padres would do that to their fans or to the development of a young player that they think highly of and are moving forward with, hopefully, in years to come. I've got to believe that there are moves between here and there, and I've got to think that now gives you time utility that you don't have 2-3 weeks from now when you're trying to integrate, in theory, a brand new player, a free agent from outside, somebody off the waiver wire, etc., into being not just a player on your team, but a starter on your team. Let's take our first break. When we come back, a player that came off the board this weekend actually really bummed me out because I thought he was in our weight class. We'll talk about that. San Diego State, rock solid. They needed that win. They got that win at Viejas Arena on Saturday afternoon. Sets things up for a potential chase for the Mountain West. We'll talk about that and plenty more all the way until 2 o'clock. But thanks for finding us early. It's Andy and Elsten, your new midday hang right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 10:22 on the Fan. Welcome back. It's your new midday hang. Annie and Elsten here with you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. I'm Craig Elsten, Braden Soprenet on hand. We continue to ford the river that's between us and the reunion of the full show. Annie will be back on Wednesday morning. Speaking of rivers, atmospheric variety continues to darken here. We haven't gone to our regular weather battle station pose yet, Braden, of pulling up one of the blinds and
making sure the Pound Town sign isn't leaking.
exactly checking for leakage along the windowsills. And
it's been very quiet with the rain the last. I thought for sure when I woke up this morning it'd be pouring, and it wasn't yet.
I literally didn't put on. I told you how I always use like white noise, right? And my go-to is rain. That's my go-to is just to have a rainstorm every night in the bedroom very quietly. And I didn't turn it on last night because I'm like, I'm sure come midnight it's just going to start raining, and it's going to be raining all night, and then that'll be right there. It'll be nature's white noise for me. But no, and I mean, good, great. As the rain continues to move down, understanding that North County is already getting smacked. If it's not completely smacking you yet, try not to be in the first group of cars that immediately gets in an accident here in San Diego this morning. Try not to be in that group. There's always the group of speedsters at the very start of a rainstorm that says, not a problem yet, no accidents yet, and then they go out and create the first accident by taking advantage of a newly slickened highway and pluming their way right into an accident. So try not to be that person today. Why not be a little bit proactive? Keep your speeds down today. If it's already raining where you are, I see Jake in the chat saying Oceanside's already getting a deluge. Then if you're looking at your speedometer and it's over 50 and you're driving in a public area, bring it down. Just bring it down. It's not worth it. Don't be part of that initial pack because every time. I mean, I remember it was last Thursday, the rain started hitting our part of the county, Braden, at 8:15, and by 9:15, literally every freeway had an accident on it. So it's going to be the same way today. There'll be an accident on every freeway within an hour of it getting wet. Try not to be one of those folks. Try not to be one of those folks. As mentioned, at 11 a.m., we're going to do a replay, not of the full Eric Grupner interview, but of all of the main Grupner sound bites and cuts. So, in essence, a replay of the show. That'll be coming up at the top of this hour. I think it left a lot of people somewhat sobered as to what the situation is because there really wasn't any new or good news in the interview. Long time ago, though, Braden, I learned don't pay so much attention to what they say. Pay attention to what they do. That can just be a great repertorial or journalistic credo to maintain, or just a way to be a smart fan that doesn't get knocked into a bunch of different rabbit holes. So a lot of what was said was what you would expect the leader of an organization to say today. I don't think there was anything groundbreaking or newsworthy in particular, but you have to kind of look between the lines. And right now, it's not what they're doing, Braden. It's what they're not doing. You knew all the way through that the Padres weren't going to play at the top of the free agent market. When you trade Juan Soto, when you trade every single player that's heading to arbitration on your team, like everyone, all the way down to Scott Barlow and Trent Grisham, you understand that this club is, as we've said so many times, they're ballers on a budget. This year, they're trying to reset the competitive balance tax. They're trying to keep under a threshold as a result, and with a market that saw, especially on the pitching side, the numbers go way, way up for compensation for mediocre free agent pitchers. You really got it when in the months of December and January, the Padres laid low.
Yeah, exactly. And to go off what you were saying, it's 100% correct. It's not what they say, it's what they do. And what they have done has been an example of they're trying to reset the CBT. And we knew that was going to be the case throughout the entire offseason, throughout all of ours leading up to, just under a week out now from pitchers and catchers reporting that if they were going to sign any type of free agents, they were going to be placeholder type free agents for the San Diego Padres, but it doesn't even sound like that's going to be the case either. I mean, they kept saying, and Eric Gruber kept saying during the interview with Bennett Woods, that they don't have a complete roster and they're going to wait for the big guys to sign and then they're going to fill out the roster. But then he went on to talk about some of the young players that they have, and that is an asset for this team. But as we discussed, they're still a year away, if not 2 years away, from all of them being able to contribute at the major league level. That's not even including DeVries or Salas, who are going to be 3 or 4 years away from helping out this big league club. And the concerning part is, look, I mean, I know you want to reset the CBT. Fine. That's fine. I think that's a smart move in general, to reset that, to get everything back to normal so you could think about spending money in future years. But to do that and then force some younger players to play, and guys like, I mean, let's look at Jackson Merrill, right? He's one of the best players the Padres have in their organization behind Salas. Salas is 18 years old, so obviously he's not going to help out. Merrill's 20. Merrill has played 46 games at Double-A. That's the highest he's played. And I know there's something to be said about giving him a shot, let him get some big league reps, but giving him a shot in spring training and him starting in left field on opening day are two totally different things.
So really, when Snell isn't here, when Bellinger isn't here, those guys still haven't signed. Matt Chapman still hasn't signed. Jordan Montgomery still hasn't signed. The top of the free agent market hasn't signed. One thing that I did hear within the Grupner comments today is he still mentioned when the top of the market moves and, some things settle a little bit. So potentially there's still a level of paralysis between clubs as you have the big guys still waiting, and maybe there's other agents saying, well, we really need those guys to land in order for our markets to properly develop. All of those things are definitely possibly the case. However, the starting pitching market and the Padres, we already knew they're not going to play in that. Some of the buckets that the Padres are playing in are settled toward the bottom. And it's those types of moves that have left me a little bummed out, frankly, over the last couple of days. Last week, it was Aaron Hicks signing for the Angels. I'm not a gigantic Aaron Hicks fan. I want to be clear every time I bring that up. He could be terrible this year. He could be off of the Angels in June. And the whole point of that was, great. You get a guy who has the ability at the major league minimum to potentially help your team. And if it doesn't, there's no commitment because he's already getting paid by the Yankees. It's essentially a free lottery ticket to scratch in baseball. That's the type of move the Padres can afford. We need placeholders. We need placeholders on this team. The vision of the future that the Padres are articulating publicly with their CEO is that of the combination of the free agents they have already signed to gigantic long-term commitments and the youth of a burgeoning farm system coming up and at minimum contributing to the 26-man roster. We're a year away from that coming to fruition. We're maybe half a year away from it starting to happen in the Padres big league roster. If it happens before that, this is going to be a very different year than what people are anticipating. So we need placeholders. And that's why when I see something as simple, as basic as a D-level free agent signing, Braden, of Carlos Santana to a 1-year, $5.25 million deal in Minnesota, I actually get bummed out because that's our price range. That's the right kind of player we need. First base DH, switch hitter, power, walks, bats at the bottom of the lineup, affordable. It's exactly the kind of guy I expect the Padres to get. So when they don't get even that guy, that's when I start to worry about potentially putting Double-A kids out in the starting lineup.
Yeah, Jacob Marcy's another one of those kids. 16 games in Double-A. I mean, you go through the resumes of some of these players. I mean, and I know a lot of people are like, well, these guys are not Fernando Tatis Jr. We need to nip that in the butt as quickly as possible. They are not. And if they are, fantastic. That's great. Good luck for the Padres, in their scouting department. That's a great job. But they need a hold right now. I just feel like, Craig, tell me if I'm wrong, but I just feel like over the last 10 to 12 years, however long that this current kind of management has been in place, especially with AJ Preller, They have changed their plan multiple times right before their plan was about to hit fruition of all of the benefits of that plan that they originally put. They can't. It's like they see it in the future. They see this team of we got the stars and we got these young players and it's going to happen, 2025, but we want it to happen now. We're going to make it happen now instead of just holding and just waiting and just being patient and letting the plan play out. I just feel like they've had this panic ejector seat button pressed every time they're close to finishing their plan of what they were going to do. The plan of, we're going to go with the free agent market and go after it this way. We're going to tear everything down and then build up this minor league system. No, we're going to trade all those minor leaguers for these top players now. And now all of a sudden it's back to, we're going to have this mix of veterans and young players, but we don't want to wait till 2025. We want that to happen now, even though the players are probably not ready to have that happen right now. I just feel like it's been panic button after panic button after panic button, Craig.
You're gonna hear from Eric Grupner at the top of the hour. You'll hear what we're kind of reacting to in advance, and I'm going to hear your reactions as well as the 11 a.m. hour goes on. However, when we come back, we've got a segment in between. I think we've got a chance to sneak in a little Aztecs commentary as well as San Diego State pulled out the game that we said going in. You better win this. Like, I think you're going to win it. You better win it. Oh, they won it. They won it and they took care of business. We'll talk about it when we come back. And, oh boy, potential addition to the NL West being discussed, one that won't help us. That right on the other side of this break. It's Annie and Elsten, your new midday hang here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Ben and Woods on The Fan.
When you trade
Big game coverage on 97.3 The Fan is presented by Solo Stove. Feel the heat of the world's most popular smokeless fire pit. Visit them today at solostove.com. Yeah, you can't really have a fire, a natural fire on a rainy day, period. The atmospheric river is starting to do its thing on San Diego County, but all of that wet wood, it's always just smoking everywhere. So a smokeless fire pit, well, that seems downright appropriate. Probably not better set up inside. So just maybe no fire pit today. Nonetheless, check out our friends at solostove.com. It's Annie and Elsten here with you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie will be back on the show on Wednesday. Went to break. Susan Slusser, San Francisco Chronicle, tweeting that the Giants are talking to outfielder Jorge Soler. And for a San Francisco lineup that really doesn't have much thump at all, that makes a ton of sense to help balance out what they're doing. I had previously heard, Braden, the Diamondbacks flirting with Jorge Soler as a potential option, and I didn't like that either. And Jorge Soler being a player on a team that the Padres are going to have to compete with for a wild card, particularly in division, doesn't seem very appealing to me on either front. But there we are. This is what we're seeing the last 2-3 weeks now. Instead of a frozen market, we're seeing good players going to teams that the Padres are going to have to beat out.
Yeah, it just kind of shows you again that they're not really interested in any of these players, or they're not trying to maybe get some of these guys, or there's something that they didn't like in terms of their dealings with these players. Again, not what they say, but what they do. Based on the interview today with Eric Grubner, and based on the way that the Padres have gone about making this roster, I think they're very confident in their young players, and I think that's the path and direction that they are currently going to go on until they say otherwise or do otherwise.
So, yes. He's not signed, by the way. I'm just saying this is a tweet about a talk that's as speculative as it gets. That is not a signing, but it's the first time we've heard Jorge Soler and the Giants linked up. All things considered, I guess I'd rather see the Giants sign Jorge Soler, who's going to strike out 180 times, whose glove is really not going to fit into either of the corners in the Giants' spacious ballpark. He'll be such a negative defensively that they'll probably have to full-time DH him in very quick fashion. I'd rather see them spend their money on Soler than on Blake Snell or on Cody Bellinger, but it doesn't preclude that they won't do something else going forward. And either way, once again, it comes down to who cares what the Dodgers do. You got to look at what the wild card teams are doing in the National League. Those are where you're going to find the range of the Padres' opponents this year. The only goal against the Dodgers is going to be don't lose all the games. And if you can win some of the games against LA, and the season ticket members can sell their tickets and everyone gets through those games and those circuses unscathed, I kind of feel like that's it in terms of us having to worry about LA. I don't care if LA signs all of it. Go sign Snell and Bellinger. Go sign everybody. Sign every third free agent this year. Develop a $700 million payroll if 300 plus isn't enough for you, because all you're doing is just pushing more eggs into the same basket over and over again. That's not our concern. Our concern, heck, the CEO of the Padres said it today on our airwaves. Talked about the wild card path, talked about low to mid 80s win totals being enough to get in and potentially make a run. It's a very modest goal to try and aspire to. It's very different from where the Padres were aiming the last 2 years, but it's certainly the direction that everything is going. And as such, any Giant or Diamondback linkage, I'm much more worried about than, frankly, anything LA does.
That's who you're competing with. I said it yesterday on the show. I mean, if you start looking at, because somebody asked the question of the Padres make the playoffs, can they make a wild card spot? I mean, aside from like the 3 teams that are going to win the 3 divisions, there's not a lot of teams that I'm afraid of in competing with the 3 wild card spots as currently constructed. You would imagine that Philadelphia is probably going to get one of those wild card spots. So now you're battling for 2. But if you go division by division, the Padres as constructed, are talented enough to go out there and be better than the teams that they're competing with for a wild card spot. Now, I think a lot of that has to be said with if they fill out the roster with some placeholders or not. I can't imagine them filling it out with some double A players from a year ago that it was going to work out. I think if you want to sneak a double A player onto the roster, I think one is probably fine as long as he's surrounded by talent. I still disagree with that decision, but I think it's a better chance for success. I can't imagine them having multiple of those players, especially the list of guys that Ken Rosenthal talked about in his article today. I had some good Padres nuggets I know we're going to talk about in just a little bit, but it's not out of the ordinary or out of the realm of possibilities with the stars that the Padres still do have that they can compete with Miami and they can compete with New York, the Mets, and they can compete with Pittsburgh and they can compete with the Brewers and the Cubs. And, the Cardinals are probably going to win the Central Division, but you never know. You keep going down the list with teams. I mean, Arizona, San Francisco. I mean, they're not that scary right now, but they're kicking around the tires on a lot of these players that are still available that you'd like to see the Padres sign. And if they sign a couple of them, all of a sudden that might change the narrative a little bit.
So we're going to listen to what Eric Grubner had to say with Ben and Woods earlier at 8 o'clock this morning in our next segment, in the 11 a.m. segment, and then we'll go through and have a deeper breakdown of everything that we heard, our reactions. We'll take your reactions on the phone as well in our second hour. Let's transition here in the 10 minutes or so that we have left in this segment, Braden, to talk a little San Diego State Aztecs men's basketball. Great atmosphere Saturday at Viejas Arena. The place was loud. It was pumping. It was jumping. Everything was happening. It was a must-win game for the Aztecs, having dropped a couple on the road, having dropped really games that they were expected to lose based on altitude, quality of opponent, quality of arena, etc. They fulfilled those low expectations by losing the games at New Mexico, at Boise State. Big win, 81-67 at Viejas Arena. Convincing, really kind of appropriate to form for what San Diego State can do. They've been shooting a lot better lately, which I don't know if that's going to continue. I guess the big news that came out of the game was 2 lineup changes in the starting lineup for Coach Dutcher, putting Jay Powell in the starting lineup, putting Darian Trammell back in the starting lineup where he was prior to his injury a year ago. Powell in particular had gone to like weird low minute totals and almost made you wonder, like, was he having really, really bad games at practice or was this something disciplinary or whatever? The mind wanders in a vacuum. But Coach Dutcher actually said after the game, no, that was kind of on him. He was not finding the right spots to get Jay Powell involved in the last couple of games, and the performance line on the score sheet suffers as a result, but not the confidence in the player. And putting him in the lineup, I just think he's one of the more versatile two-way wings that this club has.
Yeah, it's added depth that the Aztecs have. And, last year, Brian Dutcher was saying the same thing with all the players that he had with the 10. They were 10 deep last year, and he had to find a way to use all of them and use all of them to their assets, which is a very difficult thing to manage. It's a good problem to have when you have a lot of depth like that. But to see Jay Powell go out there and, go 5 for 5 from the field and go 2 for 2 from 3-point line, he had those big, massive dunks as well, 16 points. Big night for him. Jaden Ledee continued to do what he usually does with 16 points. But you got to be able to spread the love in college basketball, especially later on in the season. You can't just rely on one guy, even though you need that one guy late in the game to kind of take over a game. You have to have some supporting cast roles for some other players. And when the Aztecs have played good games so far this year, they've had that supporting cast. They've had guys like Darian Trammell, score double digits. And, Micah Parrish off the bench scored 14 on Saturday. And it was an all-effort performance for San Diego State, something that I think a lot of Aztec fans have been waiting for the entire year. Got a big showing against Utah State at home. And I think the schedule plays out very nicely for San Diego State moving forward because, the 3 teams that they lost to on the road are all coming here to Viejas Arena. And we know how much more difficult it is for teams to knock off the Aztecs here at Viejas than it is to beat them at home in the Mountain West Conference.
Aztecs at Air Force, as you said, Tuesday, that's always a wacko game. Like, that's that randomizer game. Is this going to be the day that they just have a locked-in zone defense and it's going to be 45 three-pointers for a team that's not great at threes? And what if this is the day that everything is clanking, where the altitude really gets you? I always worry about that game, and not to the level of like Higgins.
It's worrisome in
worries
almost all sports playing against the Air Force. I mean, in football, you got to deal with the triple option, and basketball, again, you talked about the good zone defense they have and the wild environment with the cadets that are out there. But here's the other thing too: like every road game in the Mountain West Conference for San Diego State is going to be a huge deal. I want to quote Mookie Betts with his whole like every game's a World Series, but for the Mountain West Conference, I mean, if you're a local fan base in some of these towns, I mean, think about some of these towns. Who are you the most excited for to come to town?
San Diego State.
I mean, they were in the national championship last year, so you're going to get everybody's best shot, regardless. Even if they weren't even in the national championship or Final Four last year, the dominance that they've had in conference with winning conference championships and being at the top every single year, during this Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher era, after they turn things around, they're going to get everybody's best shot. And you get it's a different. San Diego State has to play in different environments on the road than other schools potentially have to do in the Mountain West Conference. So from here on out, every road game is definitely one of those that you can't just say this is an automatic win. If you had to pick an automatic win out of all of the road games for the Aztecs remaining, this would be the best case, but that's still kind of shaky.
Hey, while we're talking a little college basketball, shout out Eric Olin. We had him on the show last week. His Thursday night home game against CSUN was an easy win, but the Tritons, the mighty UCSD Tritons, did lose inside the Pyramid in Long Beach, my hometown, to Long Beach State, 85-76 on Saturday. So now 2 losses in the Big West for UCSD, still 15-8 overall, 9-2 in conference. So now they are 1 game behind UC Irvine, which is 10-1, and they're tied with UC Davis, a team that UCSD beat about a week ago. So UCSD still right there. They can't qualify again for the tournament this year. They are finishing the 4-year transition from D2 to D1, and this is the last year, that year where you can play in conference, win your conference, but not play in the NCAA tournament. All of that changes in 2024-25. The other just kind of news note, and it's Major League Baseball, but it kind of transitions us back to Grupner at the top of the hour and our replay. Kansas City Royals agreed to a mega contract extension with their shortstop, Bobby Witt Jr., 11 years, $288.7 million. That's according to Jeff Passan, ESPN. Now, it's certainly not just an 11-year, $288.7 million deal. It could be a 7-year contract because Bobby Witt Jr. will have option outs, opt-outs, also known as, after the 7th year, the 8th year, the 9th year, and the 10th year. So as long as he beats the market, as the market goes up the next 5 or 6 years, he'll certainly opt out of that deal after the 7th year. However, if things did go a particular way, there is also a 3-year option to extend the deal to 14 years, at which time it would be for number 7 on their team, Bobby Witt Jr., $377,777,777. 377777777.
I like to say 7 repeated in the math world.
Remember when Turk Wendell signed he was wearing number 99, and it was like $9,999,999.99 because he's number 99. Well, they did that with Bobby Witt today. And that's the kind of deal that you love to see a team make. It's a statement from the team to the city and from the team to the player that when they get real contract, they're for real talent, they're going to have a for real contract, even in a city like Kansas City. I know that I got my season tickets for the San Diego Padres the day after the Padres announced Fernando Tatis Jr.'s 14-year contract extension, because it was a commitment to me, a commitment to every Padres fan, that when real talent comes here, real contracts will follow. So in that sense, I'm just going to say bully for the Kansas City Royals fans. It's a team that everyone loved to make fun of. They've made significant free agent acquisitions that the Padres have not. In fact, they just signed all the old Padres guys. Hey, Walker, Luco, come on over. But Bobby Witt Jr., everyone can now know that they can go safely buy that jersey and know that even if he does leave 7 years down the line, that they got everything they needed from a superstar talent. So good on Kansas City. All right. Eric Ripner was on with Ben Woods at 8 a.m. If you missed any of it, we're playing all the key excerpts coming back, and then we'll take your reaction to it as well. The Padres CEO was exclusively on 97.3 The Fan. You'll hear what he had to say next on Annie and Elsten. Hour number 2 of the big show. Welcome back. It's your new midday hang. It's Annie and Elsten here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie Heilbrunn, the Annie Interregnum, the final 4.5-day gap in between a full-fledged Annie and Elsten show and a full-fledged Annie and Elsten show. We're on day 3 of that. On such a different day that it appears we're on the Ben and Woods show now on YouTube. Who knows where we are?
Well,
We're cycling through. Now we're on the Braden Sopretin show.
I was trying to. I'll fix it in a second. I was trying to see if he had like a guest thing I could throw on.
Oh,
So like instead of when we're playing sound for YouTube, it's not just us like just doing this.
right. Yeah.
But in order to do that, as soon as you flip over to like a different, it's called a brand.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you flip over to a different brand, it automatically changes the brand. And then I was like, all right, well, I can't just put the Groupner graphic up there unless they have something else somewhere that I can go find. But instead, Craig, during the thing, you're gonna have to be like this.
Just staring at the camera.
Just nodding, smiling, and waving.
It's quite all right because we are a multimedia content creating operation every day, showing up in service of our corporate masters at Odyssey. Craig and Braden here with you. Annie will be back on Wednesday morning, but it does serve as a good reminder that we are not only on 97.3 FM in your terrestrial car radio or however you are listening to radio, if you are listening to us on the radio, but we are also streaming worldwide audio on the Odyssey app, AUDACY, where you can go back, rewind, find past segments. You still haven't found the way to fast forward and get to future segments until the show's over. But once the show's over, you can do that. And we are a live video show on YouTube on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube page. We also stream out to Facebook. We stream out to Twitter. So wherever you are taking us in, whether it is visually or only via your ears, we say thank you for making a choice to be here with us on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan, on your new midday hang, Annie and Elsten show. And I particularly say thank you to everyone who has been a month one adopter of a show that has been running as Annie or Elsten for at least the last 2 weeks running, where it just seems like we're never in the arena at the same time.
Annie or Elsten or Braden or Sam or Frank or
Exactly.
insert your guest host here.
Yeah, it's been midday friends is what it's been.
Well, that's what a hang is, right, Craig?
Yeah,
Isn't that what a
just
midday hang is?
Show up, find out who's here.
Open door
Hang out.
policies, walk in, walk out. We're like the grandpa from The Simpsons walking in the coat rack.
No, we do. We thank all of you. For everyone watching on YouTube right now, nice audience that's there. Please smash the like button there. Let's all get together. 3, 2, 1, smash. Smash that like button.
Sure.
Appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed to the show page so that you get alerts every time that we pop on in the morning. Okay. We promised it. Let's deliver it. At 8 o'clock this morning, the CEO of the San Diego Padres, Eric Groupner, came out and had a lengthy interview with Ben and Woods. I think it went about 20 plus minutes. We're not going to play the whole thing. We're going to play Groupner's answers to key questions. And then we're going to spend the rest of the hour with our reactions and also with your reactions at 833-288-0973. So let's begin with Eric Groupner being asked for his message to the fans who are upset about the combination of ticket prices significantly going up for the second straight year and the payroll for the first time heading downwards.
Yeah, I would start by thanking them for their support and their faithful, passionate support, sticking with us. And, we've had some highs and lows over the last several years, but I don't think anybody can dispute the fact that, we've significantly increased payroll. We've gone, full on in pursuit of a World Series championship. And that hasn't changed. It just might look a little different this year than it did last year or even the year before based on the mix of players and what we're able to build in this market by way of a sustainable winner year in and year out. And so, nothing has changed. It may feel like we've pulled back on payroll in a way that may be, disappointing to fans, and I get that. I completely understand it. I think we are doing the very best we can within the capabilities and resources that we have to put a team on the field that can consistently play winning baseball, make it to the playoffs, especially with the expanded playoff format, and then compete for and win a World Series championship. And I think you've seen that as recently as last year with the Diamondbacks. If you can get healthy and hot and get into the playoffs in the expanded format, you can make a deep run. And I think we've got plenty of talent on this team and a lot more talent coming through our system, that the future is very bright. And so that's what I would tell the fans. I think you should believe in this team. You should believe in our approach. You should believe in what we're building for the future. And we're incredibly thankful for that support. And we understand that fans, commit their time and their money to supporting this team. And we feel a sense of obligation to continue to do our very best to put a winning team on the field and deliver a World Series championship. And we're just incredibly grateful for our fan support. So the goal hasn't changed. We're full on in pursuit of that and doing the very best that we can with the resources that we have in this market at this time. And I think we're building a sustainable approach that can put a winning team on the field year in and year out for years to come.
Whenever anyone from the corporate suites is talking, you have to be listening very carefully. And frankly, this is as true for AJ as it is for Eric Grupner. I think the unsaid in that last string of the comment is the most important part. He says they are doing the very best they can with the resources they have in the market they're in at this time. What's unsaid in that is that they don't have a TV deal, that they're not gonna have a TV deal, that $60 million that used to be counted upon in the club's budget is gone. It's gone. $60 million without the need to pay anyone in the production, all of the production costs taken care of by the company that they're contracted with. Now that's gone. They're in charge of the production. They shoulder all of the costs of production, and they are offering it direct to consumer, over the top, wedging it into cable packages around the county. There is no TV deal. So when they say we're doing the best with what we have at this time, that's why I think all of us that are reading the tea leaves go, ooh, got it.
Ooh, who's that gif for the guys? Just like, ooh. That's basically how I feel listening to that kind of excerpt from Eric Grupner. I mean, he says all the right things that a PR firm would love for him to say as the guy in charge down there with everything that's going on with the Padres. But it's just not, the writing on the wall is not the same as what it was with Peter Seidler in terms of spending money. I mean, you're hearing without him saying small market, you're hearing him say small market, which is, I think, exactly what Padres fans were afraid of, and exactly what Padres fans do not want to go back to when, as we mentioned before, and it was Annie or it was you, I can't remember. Somebody on the show I mentioned the hamburger that they've been fed for so long that got flipped to a steak is slowly starting to get flipped back to a hamburger, and Padres fans don't want to see that again. And the term small market seems to be coming back in a different phrase of this market and what we have to deal with. I mean, they're all legitimate answers in terms of what he's saying. But at the same time, it's not necessarily, I think, what a lot of Padres fans want to hear.
Building something that's sustainable is both admirable and correct as a Padres organizational strategy, and kind of begs the question, what were the last 2 years about? Because that apparently was building something unsustainable, which is the criticism the Padres received, and a criticism that we all got mad at and said, why are you guys are just raining on our parade. Now it appears the rain is coming from inside the building. Question from Woodsy to Eric Grupner was pretty straightforward. Do the Padres have enough bodies to compete in the major leagues this year?
Yeah, I think the roster is not yet complete. There's no doubt about that, and there's still time. And as has been the case in past years, we've made moves, going into spring training. And then I think you've also got to give some of your younger players the opportunity during spring training camp to show you where they're at, both on the position player and the pitching side. And we've got a lot of competition this year. So looking to see who is capable of stepping up and contributing to the team, either coming out of camp or perhaps at some point during the season, is going to be part of that evaluation process that you just can't do until you get into spring training, and see these guys match up at that level and compete.
Sure.
But, we have added some pretty valuable bullpen pieces in Yuki Matsui, Woo Suk Go, obviously pending physical, as has been announced but not yet confirmed, Wandy Peralta, and put a proven Major League Baseball starter into the rotation in Michael King. So, we've been active addressing some of the areas that you mentioned, and AJ will continue to do that as he puts together the roster, through and spring training and into the season. But, we've got a very talented roster, and we're looking to complete that roster as best we can between potentially additional acquisitions and also what we already have in our system or we've already, received back by way of trade. And,
Sure.
We're excited and we feel good. And, you mentioned Mike Schilt, and I don't want to gloss over that. I mean, Mike Schilt is a proven winner. He took the Cardinals to the playoffs each of his 3 full seasons managing the Cardinals. And he was the NL Manager of the Year in 2019. He's been a part of our organization for the last couple of years. And so he knows our guys well, especially some of the younger players that are coming up. And, I'm really excited to see what he and a revamped coaching staff are going to be able to do with this team this year and get the very best and most out of the talent that we have on the roster.
I mean, that's great. And I love Mike Schilt as the new Padres manager.
You've been like his number one fan since they hired him.
I put that Schilt on everything. I am excited about Mike Schilt. However, he is not starting in left field or center field or at DH for the Padres this year. Right now, nobody is starting in left field or DH, and the center fielder is Jose Azocar, who has never put up the kind of line that you would find acceptable as an everyday outfielder in the minors even. I mean, you have to look park adjusted to find anything that he's done all the way down to rookie league that you'd be like, okay, cool. I want that line. I want that offensive line in my lineup as a contributor to a winning team. So a lot of that answer was about the pitching depth that the Padres have acquired in the winter.
Which they do. They have pitching depth.
They do.
Nobody's going to deny that.
That side of the roster, we're cool. Okay.
That is a part of the roster that is a World Series caliber, playoff caliber roster. Part.
Potentially.
It is.
Everyone's got to stay healthy.
Right. But
King's got to be good.
Any team in baseball would love to have that bullpen.
Yes.
The
Absolutely.
bullpen. I'm talking about the bullpen, not really the rotation. But
and
that bullpen they assembled a playoff caliber bullpen.
And you've got young starters knocking on the door. You've got the opportunity for a Drew Thorpe or a Jairo Iriarte to get up here in a hurry and contribute to this team. You've got college pitchers like Adam Mazur and Ryan Bergert, who all they need to do is show in the minors that they're ready, and then they should be able to step right in to a major league starting staff. You've got the kids on the come, like Robbie Snelling, like Dylan Lesko, who could raise the ceiling of the pitching side of this organization for years to come and offer that craving, that word that we're craving for, sustainability, to exist on the pitching side. That's fine. That's fine. That's the pitching side. On the offensive side, the Padres are a mess right now. They are an all right-handed lineup that is literally missing 2 spots and filling another one inadequately. And obviously that has to change. The very first thing that Eric Grupner said was this roster isn't complete. But when they start talking about playing kids up from AA, that is what scares me about what he says. Let's take a break. Let's play the rest of our Eric Grupner cut from this morning on Ben and Woods, and then we'll take your reactions as well. 833-288-0973. It's Annie and Elsten, your new midday hang here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. This hour of Annie and Elsten is brought to you by the Farmer's Dog. It's 11:21. Craig Elsten, Braden Soprano back with you. Annie will rejoin the show full-time on Wednesday. Salute to Champions Dinner tonight. We hope everything goes great for everyone over there at SDSA. Okay, we're halfway through our replay of Eric Grupner's comments this morning. If you missed it, he was on at 8 a.m. With Ben and Woods. That entire interview is available as its own podcast as well. But we've played a handful of his clips. Let's get to Eric Grupner, Braden, talking about the latest on the San Diego Padres television situation.
So we're not unique if for those who have kind of paid attention to what's been going on with Diamond Sports Group and, formerly owned by Sinclair and the bankruptcy proceedings. The entire regional sports network model has been, really under a lot of distress, and that's led to pretty rapid dislocation in the TV rights or the media rights for those teams that control their rights locally, and Major League Baseball is one of those leagues. So, we were a bit of the tip of the spear on that. As we talked about last year, we were the first team to move to MLB Media. And with that came a option for our fans in our market that they had never had previously, which was the ability to stream our games on a monthly basis through MLB.com or MLB TV, and without local market blackout. Yep. So that was a great option that was added that we had not had previously. And then our goal has been working with MLB Media and the folks at MLB to continue to secure that same linear distribution, which is the cable and satellite distributors that we've had traditionally, while adding that direct to consumer option. So, it continues to evolve. It's not unique to San Diego, and our goal will be to continue to have our games available as widely as possible for our fans in our market. And we're working with Major League Baseball to do that right now. Major League Baseball is taking the lead on it at MLB Media. And it's going to take, some time here through spring training to the start of the season before we have clarity on all the different cable and satellite distributors that will carry our games. But we're going to continue to have that monthly option through what will become Padres TV this year. Same product as was available to our fans last year. So that regardless of whether you're a cord never, or cord shaver, or cord cutter, you have that other option, but we also want to continue to maintain as many cable satellite options for our fans as possible as well.
So parse through that, and what you have is we don't have a new TV deal. We have the same thing that we had last year, which is a direct to consumer offering or over-the-top offering where you can subscribe to Padres games in market and get them digitally in market. They are pursuing, but based on that quote from Grupner, have not yet completely, at least to the level that they can announce them, secured deals with current cable companies that are operating within San Diego to ensure that that same thing that you can pay over the top to get will be available to people who pay already for cable carriage fees, and have that chance that if you have Cox or Charter or something something else here in town, that the games will be on your service already. But no new deal, no new cable company coming to town, no talk about somebody swooping in and rescuing the San Diego Padres with a classical regional sports network offering where they pay for the rights and they pay all the production costs. We've gone through this. We'll talk about it more in days and weeks to come, Braden, when Annie's back. But the amount of money that they got last year by switching to this, it was minuscule in comparison to what they used to get in the $60 million a year.
Yeah, it's not even close. But to me, I view this, and a lot of things that he said, I think you could pull out. Obviously, I do agree with him. It's not unique to the Padres right now because there's a lot of teams that are going to have to go through this over the next couple of years. And the interesting thing to me is we talked about this a while ago. You brought up the difference between the NFL and Major League Baseball and the TV rights and trying to make it a level playing field. and how that time has now come for Major League Baseball to try to do something like that. And he said the Major League Baseball media is working on something like this. So for me, based on that information, that answer, and again, this is just going off of what Eric Grupner said, regardless of what is actually happening behind the scenes or not. But I view this as kind of like the colleges with their conference realignment and their own deals. You don't have to win the deal now. You have to survive. And right now, I think the Padres are doing everything they possibly can to tread water until this gets resolved on a national scale. And I do think with enough teams being affected by this, Major League Baseball is going to have to get involved and start finding some places. So in the meantime, the Padres are finding ways to get their product on TV for the local carriers, trying to find ways that people that don't have cord connections or, satellite cable, give them an opportunity to watch the product, just get on the air. Seems to be the goal for the Padres. And then over the next couple of years, trying to find that avenue where they can make the money back on this, potentially more money, see what Major League Baseball is currently working on. Because there could be, I'm not going to give him, excuse on this, but there could be a situation where Major League Baseball says, we have to figure some things out. You guys can't do anything until we figure these things out. Just go with what we got. And we're gonna make this thing happen. Again, I don't know any extra information on this, but based on what Eric Grupner said, it sounds like the Padres were told to tread water, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, they don't have a choice.
No, they don't.
And the situation with Diamond and with Amazon Prime is a whole separate topic outside. All you really need to know right now is that the Padres are on the outside of this looking in. Them and Arizona, by the way. Those are the two teams that are completely on the outside of this, looking in, having to peddle their own product to market, having to individually sign up subscribers to watch their games, as opposed to just having a company sometimes open up a lovely bag of cash, or in the case of LA, dump an entire Scrooge McDuck room of coins into the Dodgers coffers. All right, next quote from Grupner from, again, 8 a.m.'s Ben and Woods conversation. He was asked, he's not going to answer this directly, but he was asked about the Padres trying to go under / stay under the competitive balance tax this year.
Yeah, we don't get into publicly, discussing the specifics of payroll or MLB rules. So that's not something that I'm going to talk about publicly. But I am going to say that, once again, we have a long-term plan for sustainable success. And as I've said previously, in our market, it's going to have to involve both free agents, and we've made significant long-term commitments to some very talented players who are in their prime and will remain in their prime for, some years to come. But then we've also got to supplement that with, younger players that are coming into their early years of Major League service time and are able to make great contributions to the Major League team, but are not, obviously making the type of salary that a free agent, superstar player makes. And it's got to be a mix of the two. And that's what I think you've seen done successfully in other markets and other teams that are similar to the Padres. And there's no way that we would be able to be anywhere near where we are right now if it hadn't been, and if it isn't for the continued support of our fans. So, we are incredibly thankful to our fans. Without the support, without the attendance growth, there's no way that we could be at where we are right now or continue to be at a level where we can put a consistently competitive team on the field. So that's as far as I'll go. We're not going to get into specifics beyond that, but the message is we're incredibly grateful to our fans. The goal remains the same. And, we've got to go about it in a way in our market where, we're not just signing free agents year in and year out, but we've got to continue to get better at player development and have players from our system contributing at the major league level in their early years as major league players. And I believe we're on track to do that, perhaps as early as this year.
So, in other words, the 2022 offseason was a gigantic mistake for the San Diego Padres on a baseball side, because every single thing that Eric Grubner is saying the Padres absolutely need to do, they did the opposite last offseason. They signed players to gigantic free agent contracts. They locked players into long-term deals that extended well beyond their average expiration date for being plus WAR players in Major League Baseball. They put commitments on the books that will force the team now into a position where they need to have not just young talent come up, but young talent come up and contribute in order for the victory formula to math out. And again, it's what's not said in these comments that is the very most telling. I want to hear the next one as well, because I think it's important, because it gets into a name check. This is Eric Grubner talking about the depth and the talent of the Padres roster.
Yeah, it's a fair question. We have a very talented roster, as you mentioned. It starts with Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, Xander Bogaerts, Ha-Seong Kim, Jake Cronenworth, Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, and emergent Luis Campusano at catcher last year. We got back some really key pieces both for this season and for the future in return for Juan Soto. And we have a farm system that has also been built back up very rapidly to the point where we have 6 prospects in the top 100, and that's tied with only 3 other teams for the most prospects. And some of those prospects are now getting closer to the major league level. So we expect that they're going to start contributing this year and for years to come. So it's going to be a combination. The roster's not done yet. I certainly believe that AJ will continue to look at opportunities once some of the bigger names come off the board that have been out there in the free agent market, to continue to round out our roster. But we start with a really, really talented core and then an exciting group of younger players that are coming. Those 6 prospects in the top 100, a few of them were at the AA level last year, starting to approach the AAA and major league level. Jackson Merrill is a guy that will make his second big league camp appearance this year in spring training. We're excited to see the progress that he can make. A couple of college players that are a little bit more below the radar. They aren't in that top 6, but we think can contribute to this team in short order. It's Jacob Marcy and Graham Pauley. Jacob was the MVP of the Arizona Fall League. He's a left-handed hitting outfielder that, we're really high on. Graham Pauley was our 2023 minor league player of the year, very advanced approach at the plate. And then, Robbie Snelling and Drew Thorpe, in addition to obviously Michael King, who slots into the starting rotation as a result of the Soto trade. But Drew Thorpe and Robbie Snelling are arguably 2 of the best young pitching prospects in baseball. Snelling was actually the, minor league pitcher of the year last year. And Thorpe was MILB.com's minor league pitcher of the year while in the Yankees system. So I think we're really excited. We're excited to see what some of these younger players can come in and do in spring training and how they can start to contribute to the major league team while also opportunistically looking to round out the roster, under AJ's leadership.
All right, we've got one more cut here from Eric Grubner. I want to get in all the cuts, and then we can come back and we can react, and we can take your reactions on the telephone as well. Last cut that we have here is a very direct discussion of the power structure inside the Padres offices now that Peter Seidler is gone. Yeah,
it's pretty simple, actually. Eric Kutsenda has stepped in the role that Peter held as chairman. So I report to him, AJ reports to him, and the 3 of us, run the business together and the team. And Eric, is not as public facing, as you mentioned, as Peter and Ron were. And, so far that's certainly by design. But Eric has been very engaged. He's in the office in San Diego, not every day, but often. And he shares the same vision that we've had for some time under Peter's leadership. The goal remains the same, to win a World Series championship. and we are all working as hard as we can in that direction under Eric's ultimate leadership. And it's been great to work with him. You know, he and Peter were business partners for 30 years. They started the private equity firm together. He's probably, next to Peter's brother, Bob, perhaps the most intimately familiar with Peter's outlook on business and life and the Padres. And we're all working to continue that legacy. And simply put, it's to win consistently year in and year out, to be putting a playoff caliber team on the field and ultimately winning the World Series championship. So nothing's changed. It's still the same. And Eric has stepped into and embraced that role and is doing an outstanding job. And we're fortunate to have him.
I want to be clear that those words are encouraging for Padres fans going forward. But for 2024, there's a lot left unsaid in terms of what this team is trying to accomplish on the field. We've heard now from Eric Rupner in the last two segments here on Annie and Elsten. I'd love to hear from you about it. 833-288-0973. We'll take a break when we come back. Braden and I with our reactions, but also yours. 833-288-0973 to what you heard there from the CEO of the San Diego Padres. Certainly a lot to unpack. We will continue to do it as we work our way toward the 12 o'clock sports fix at the top of the hour. It's Annie and Elsten on 97.3 The Fan.
Ben and Woods on the Fan.
Boo Trotter.
Oh, my God.
Formerly known as Jim Trotter.
Oh, my God.
Only reason I'm doing this show is because you guys are recognizing me by my new name.
The last
The Best Football Show with Brian Baldinger wraps up the football world in 15 minutes so you can be smarter at the water cooler. Join Baldy as he explains the biggest stories from multiple vantage points and the ripple effects they have throughout football. He dissects the NFL's most exciting moments and top players as only a film junkie can. Follow the Best Football Show with Brian Baldinger in the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Annie and Elsten here with you. Thrilled to be with you on a Monday morning. Day 3 of the Annie Interregnum, 3 out of 4. Annie will be gone tomorrow, too. Tonight is Salute to Champions. Hopefully, they won't get completely dumped upon this evening, and they have a robust crowd for the Salute to Champions. I will not be there tonight. I was kind of hoping I would be there, and then the combination of the idea of trying to get from La Mesa all the way across to La Jolla on a night like this in San Diego, and got my own recording commitment, got my own second job drifting into my life tonight. So don't have the chance to go, but I hope everyone has a great time. I don't think we'll qualify as a great time the last 2 segments we just had on the show, replaying Eric Grupner's quotes from earlier this morning on Ben and Woods. I don't think there's anything depressing in there, Braden. I think he's saying all the things that we know about the club and that we understand about the team. The biggest takeaway I have is that we really might not be signing anybody. Even Grupner, and listen, I've been seeing some of the chats in our YouTube, comments in our YouTube chat. Mason Jordan had, I thought, the absolute most important question. He said, why are people asking Eric Grupner baseball operations questions? Why is he out there speaking for baseball operations? And absolutely, where's AJ Preller? He has been a silent man really since the Juan Soto trade. And it's fine to be out there quiet and getting the job done. When you are silent and nothing's happening, it allows all of our minds to wander and to wonder what the actual situation is. And then when you're asked questions about holes in the roster, absolutely, he said, this is not a complete roster. I'm going to hang on to that. I'm going to cling on to it like it is my last grip before I fall off a cliff. Because the idea of putting Arizona Fall League MVP players in a starting lineup the very next opening day, it's quite literally almost unprecedented, Braden, in terms of force-feeding youth that fast.
There have been some very impressive Arizona Fall League MVPs, to say the least, but the only ones that it made sense are like phenom type players. I mean, would you consider him to be as good or better than Ronald Acuna Jr.?
Right, because he is of the entire list. I've got the list of all the Arizona Fall League MVP winners from 2002 to 2023, and you can find some great names on there, but finding a great name that was on the big league team the next year, the list is Ronald Acuna Jr. I want to say I'm exactly right on that. Let me just double check one more. Yep, exactly. So first things first, some great players have been Arizona Fall League MVP. That's great news for Jacob Marcy.
No question about it. There's a lot of great players that have played in the Arizona Fall League. That's not what we're talking about, though.
Nolan Arenado is a past Arizona Fall League MVP. Chris Bryant is a past Arizona Fall League MVP. Ronald Acuna Jr.
Our guy Adam Engel, Craig.
Well, I would have put him on the other list.
I'm just saying.
The other list of Arizona Fall League MVPs. Even last year, Heston Kjerstad out of the Orioles system that is one of these can't-miss guys that Baltimore refuses to include in any deals. So Royce Lewis with the Twins, who was a former, number 1 pick. So there's great players that have come out, or at least good players too, that have come out of the Arizona Fall League. There's also Jason Dubois and Ken Harvey and Tommy Hanson and Dustin Ackley and Chris McGinnis and Greg Bird and Adam Engel and Keston Hiura, who have had no to minimal impact in Major League Baseball that were AFL MVPs. But all these guys, Nolan Arenado won it in 2011. He made his big league debut in 2013. Chris Bryant won it in 2013. He made his big league debut in 2015. Herstad, no, not last year, right? Maybe a cup of coffee, not a regular player. So the idea that Marcy, who has barely seen AA, is ready to be a starting outfielder in Major League Baseball, that is almost an embarrassing type of comment, because it's the type of comment that exudes the ignorance of someone who doesn't understand the difference in breaking pitches, velocity, control, and command between A ball, AA, AAA, and the big leagues. Chris Bryant was 2 years later. I'm looking at it right here. He was the 2013 Arizona Fall League MVP, and his first play was 2015 with the Cubs.
And he was also a 3-year college player.
And he was a 3-year college player. And Marcy is a college player. Graham Pauley is a college player. So, yes, you don't need as much time in the minor leagues, but hitters need time in the minor leagues. There's a difference. Pitchers need stuff. When pitchers have stuff combined with a little bit of knowledge and command, they can shoot to the big leagues, but stuff can get you to the big leagues. You can be as talented a hitter in the minor leagues as anyone's ever seen. Get to AA. All of a sudden, the sliders aren't all out of the zone. The curveballs aren't all looping out of the top of the pitcher's hands. Things are tight. Things are moving. Things are swerving. People are changing up on you. And all of a sudden, you realize that there's a whole different level to hitting. And to pretend like that, and even the gap between AA and the big leagues doesn't exist, that is scary.
It's not a recipe for success. It's not. And it seems some people like upset about it that are super into like everything the Padres do is like the greatest thing ever all the time. But the reality is it's just they're not there yet. And again, like you and I are not saying they're never going to be starters. That's not what we're saying. We're saying they're still a year away from making a major league impact. And there's not a lot of benefit for the Padres to bring these guys up early and potentially ruin some of these guys. I mean, here's the other thing. I don't want to hear anybody when Jackson Merrill and Graham Pauley and Jacob Barcy, let's say like one of them makes the team and starts every day, and after 3 months are hitting a $125. I don't want to hear anybody say and complain they suck, because they don't. Right? I mean, it's just they're getting sent an unfair and an impossible battle to deal with when it comes to playing at the big league level. It's a different animal than playing AA. And these guys don't even have a lot of experience playing AA. We're not saying they're not going to be great players, which we don't know. Nobody knows. What we're saying is they're a year away, and the Padres can't force them up to try to save money and make it look like they have a complete roster because they don't want to spend on free agents, because that is not a recipe for success, is basically what Craig and I have been trying. I don't want to speak for you, but that sounds like what we've been trying to say for the last hour and a half.
Yes. And it bears repeating. And again, if you want to dial in, we do have about 5 minutes left in the segment. 833-288-0973. I gave the phone number a little bit earlier as well. There are good players coming up in the San Diego Padres system. Okay. I understand that college players also move up faster. But the reason why you start a season like this with major league placeholders instead of putting them right into the opening day starting lineup is because it gives you optionality. It gives you the opportunity for those players to continue to develop their skill sets in the minor leagues, playing every day. And it gives you the chance to potentially land on a placeholder who has a decent year, somebody who has a good first year, and then you have no time pressure in terms of force feeding someone into the big leagues. Okay. While Braden, you said, hey, don't give me a call if these guys are hitting 125 in June, I would also say the opposite. Don't give me a call if Jackson Merrill is the opening day left fielder and gets a hit in his first at bat.
Because, I mean, it's baseball. I mean, he can go 3 for 4, and all of a sudden people are going to be like, see, I told you should have made the team. And then 2 to 3 months later, guy's hitting a $125, He's splitting time, and all of a sudden, that top prospect you thought you had, all the panic button ensues. And what do you got? You get Anthony Rizzo, and then he's gone, right? And then we can sit here and bitch, moan, and complain that we should have held on to Anthony Rizzo, even though when he got pulled up a little bit too early to try to showcase him to Padres fans at the end of the year, and he didn't hit very well because he was adjusting the major leagues. The Padres organization, different regime back then. I do want to point that out. But then they shipped him off for Andrew Kashner, and the career that Rizzo has put together compared to the year or the career that Kashner has had with the Padres, and since then, up until his retirement, obviously, were two totally different careers because we wanted to take a chance on a guy super early, and it didn't work out.
Last thing I want to say in this hour is as follows, because once again, and I see some stuff in the chat like, well, why do you think this team's awful? I don't think this team's awful.
Nobody said that.
I don't think this team's awful. I'm excited about the players that we have in the prime of their careers. I'm happier having superstar players on the team than not having superstar players. That is going to be a constant resting state for myself, and I think for the Annie and Elsten program as well. But as much as I hate to say it, I have to say it. Trust me when I tell you that on Angels Radio for years, they have been saying at this time of the year, don't tell me we have a bad ball club. We have two of the greatest players in big league history in Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani on our team. We have a Hall of Famer in Albert Pujols. We have an all-star third baseman in Anthony Rendon. Look at these great players that we have on our team. Don't tell me that we have a bad team. And you know what? The Angels never have a bad team. They always have a team that wins 70-something games. Our goal must be in San Diego to not be the Angels. Our goal must be to not be a team with weighty, aging player contracts combined with a lack of a farm system. And where we have a leg up on the Angels is a robust farm system that A.J. Preller has shown the ability to refill time and time again. However, those players have never come to the big leagues as the contributing players to this team. They have been traded for other big league players to come in and be the stars on this team. The Padres are trying to break that cycle and figuring out how to do that without 2024 being a bridge season or a gap season. That's our abiding concern right here on 97.3 The Fan. 2 hours into Annie and Elsten. When we come back, we reset everything in the sports world for you. The 12 o'clock sports fix is on the other end of this break on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Ben and Woods on The Fan.
Coming up Tuesday, no pressure, but we'll be joined by the man on whom
Hour number 3 of the show. Welcome back, everybody. It's your new midday hang, Annie and Elsten, here on San Diego's number 1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. It is day 3 of our Annie Interregnum, 4 shows in a row that Annie is out for the San Diego Sports Association Salute to Champions. The dinner itself takes place tonight in La Jolla. Tomorrow is Recovery Day, Wednesday, and every day for the rest of time moving forward. Annie Heilbrunn will be here in studio. She's technically used all of her days off for the next 3 years. So Annie will be here every day for the next 3 years here on.
Should have taken a loan out for the for
She did.
the hours.
Yeah, you had to trade a first-round draft pick in 2026 in order to get the job done. We've talked a lot of Padres. We replayed all of Eric Grupner's comments from Ben and Woods in our last hour. If you missed any of it, you can always go back and rewind on the Odyssey app or track back on the YouTube show as we continue. But it is 12 o'clock. It's time to get up to date on everything.
Oh, time for lunch, eh?
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! We want it now!
See your mom cut the crusts off your bread?
Mom, the meatloaf!
Well, you probably missed a lot in the sports world. Don't worry, we've got you covered from high school to professional and everything in between on the 12 o'clock Sports Fix on Annie and Elsten.
Here it is. We get things delivered to you in digestible form in 10 minutes or less from local sports all the way through to the pros. It's the 12 o'clock Sports Fix. It gets things started. We will start on the college basketball beat. Brandon and oh my God. Brandon,
Wow.
Guess what's on my screen right now?
You gotta stop looking at the chats.
A name over and over and over again. Braden Soprenant, college basketball, please.
Chalk it up. Where's the days without a mess up?
Back to zero.
San Diego State Aztecs beat the Utah State Aggies on Saturday, 81-67 at Viejas Arena, a full-packed Viejas Arena. I was told it was one of the loudest environments that people have experienced since they retired Kawhi Leonard's jersey. Well, guess what? They're going to have to continue that if they want to keep pace with Utah State and Boise State atop of the Mountain West Conference standings. Aztecs will have a big game tomorrow against Air Force on the road to try to do that and be the reigning champion of the Mountain West Conference in the regular season. 81-67 victory over Utah State on Saturday. They weren't the only team in San Diego in college basketball to play on Saturday. Usually aren't. The San Diego Toreros had an upset victory over Santa Clara. Went up to Santa Clara and beat them 70-59. Look out, don't look now, but the San Diego Toreros have won 3 out of their last 4 games.
All right, let's go.
In the West Coast
I'm like
Conference.
Steve Lavin there on the sideline. Clapping.
That's right. Exciting for a very young team with a lot of freshmen and sophomores, a lot of guys coming back, learning how to play at the D1 level, but a nice little 3 out of 4 stretch for the Toreros as they knock off Santa Clara. The UC San Diego Tritons, not as much luck as the other 2 teams in town. They take a tough loss to Long Beach State over the weekend. With the loss, they have now dropped to number 2 in the Big West standings. They were tied for first with Irvine. Irvine beat Hawaii 93-68, so they're in first at 10-1, with UC San Diego sitting in the 2 spot, tied with UC Davis with 2 losses in the standings after an 85-76 loss at the Pyramid against the Long Beach State Beach. Did you know they changed their name a couple years ago?
They're not the 49ers?
They're not the 49ers anymore.
What?
Their baseball team is still called the Dirtbags, but now
right.
they're just the Long Beach State Beach.
They're just the beach.
The Beach. Remember that was like their nickname, but now it's like they're the Long Beach State Beach.
I don't like it.
I don't like it either. Why? We're the San Diego Sands. Come on.
Yeah.
Long Beach State Beach.
Beach?
Beach.
Beach.
Point Loma Nazarene had some action in the Pac West. They
Yeah, they
lost to the Academy of Art. 95-86 on Saturday at 5 o'clock. Their next game will be on February 10th against Azusa Pacific at 5 o'clock at the Golden Gymnasium, and arguably one of the nicest overlooks in all of college athletics. It overlooks the baseball field that goes into the Pacific Ocean. A
so
beautiful place to watch a college basketball game, but more importantly during the springtime to watch college baseball teams. So tough loss for Point Loma Nazarene. They lost to the Academy of Art after a 3-game winning streak involving multiple overtime victories for Point Loma Nazarene. But that's a look at the college level for college basketball. I did want to mention the USD women's basketball team knocked off USF 77-66. First win in a long time, then won since December. They snapped an 11-game losing streak and snapped a losing of 15 of the last 16 games. Good for Sydney Fisher and company. Sydney Fisher with the win now has 392 career victories as she's trying to track down win number 400.
Outstanding. I've got the arena beat for you, and it goes as follows. Pretty decent results all the way across our beloved arena teams over the weekend for our beloved San Diego Gulls. You win one, you lose one. At home on Friday, they lost one to the Tucson Roadrunners 2-1. But where Roadrunners run, Eagles fly, and the Gulls were able to chase down the Colorado Eagles by a 4-3 score, and as such, make sure I got that right. No, 2-1. Lost 2-1, won 2-1. If you wanted to come see a 2-1 hockey game, you were set at Pechanga Arena last weekend. So, hey, got 2 points out of 4 available. Gulls will travel this weekend to take on the Calgary Wranglers up in Calgary, which is a greater, much better place for Calgary's team to be than it was when I was in the AHL, which was Stockton. Well, I don't want to fly from Calgary to Stockton all that often. The San Diego Seals, Woodsy's beloved San Diego Seals, came home for the first time in a month and destroyed the Colorado Mammoth 16-7. First time I had ever heard this terminology. Yesterday, Austin Stats scored a sock trick. I had always heard of it as a double hat trick, but in fact, apparently in the National Lacrosse League, if a player scores 6 goals, you're supposed to take off your shoes, take off your socks, throw your socks on the floor, and then put your shoes back on your stinky feet. Congratulations to the Seals, who are on a roll. San Diego Sockers took all 6 points out of Texas last weekend. Big game was on Thursday night, a 6-5 win over the Texas Outlaws that was fighting them for first place. Then they played the forlorn Dallas Sidekicks and thumped them by a 10-3 final score. Dallas has lost 11 games in a row. San Diego Mojo still trying to find their mojo. They lost in straight sets to the Omaha Supernovas on Saturday. So Mojo out to an 0-2 start, however, coming home in a couple weekends to Viejas Arena. That's your arena report. Braden, what's up in the National Football League?
Got a lot going on in the NFL, obviously, with the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. That being said, field conditions for the Niners practice facility at UNLV have been met with widespread disapproval from various members of their organization, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. NFL put in a sod field on top of field turf and started laying it just last week when the NFL ordinarily requires Super Bowl practice fields to meet certain standards in December, sources told Adam Schefter. The NFL hardness score for fields averages 78, with no field being less than 70. The 49ers field is considered in the 50s, according to Adam Schefter. 49ers will hold their first walkthrough practice on the field later Monday. Chiefs are practicing this week at the Vegas Raiders training facility, but the Niners are upset with their field conditions. We have a lot of hiring news in NFL news. Seattle Seahawks are expected to hire Jay Harbaugh as their special teams coordinator under head coach Mike McDonald. Source confirmed ESPN on Monday. Harbaugh is 34, served in that role for the past 5 seasons at the University of Michigan under his father, Jim Harbaugh. A report from Ann Arbor News last week stated that the younger Harbaugh was set to follow his father to L.A. to coach on the Chargers staff, but he will instead reunite with McDonald in Seattle. From one coach's son to another, Steve Belichick has accepted, he's also going to the Seattle region, but he will be accepting the University of Washington defensive coordinator job, according to ESPN. Belichick, son of Patriots coach Bill Belichick, has spent his past 12 years as a defensive assistant in New England, including 5 as a defensive play caller. He is the new Huskies DC. Last one for you. Washington Commanders move quickly to fill their offensive coordinator position, hiring former Arizona Cardinals coach Cliff Kingsbury. The team announced Monday. The Commanders also announced the addition of Joe Witt Jr. as their defensive coordinator. They're the first big moves by new coach Dan Quinn, who has coached defense throughout his career. Kingsbury had been close to joining the Raiders as their offensive coordinator until contract talks broke down Saturday. Washington talked to Kingsbury that day. The deal was completed on Sunday. A lot of NFL coaching moves, and the Niners are miffed by their field condition.
The Niners want a nicer field. Well, sorry, you're in Vegas, pal. Over to the arenas once again. I just like it when we're indoors, especially on a rainy day. NBA, NHL news, hottest team around remains San Diego Clippers, now LA. They went to Miami and won 103-95. Clips continue to roll. How about the baffling, confusing, perplexing LA Lakers? Their Grammy road trip just keeps getting better and better. It's had 3 of their best wins of the year and 2 of their worst losses. On Saturday, they defeated a red-hot New York Knicks team by a 113-105 score in the Garden. The Grammy trip ends for these clubs tonight. The Lakers are at the Hornets, while the Clippers are at the Hawks. Meanwhile, the NHL had its all-star game yesterday. It wasn't good. It was not good. It was a bunch of drafted teams playing 3-on-3. It was a yawner. But the league moves along, and the Oilers, who have been sitting on a 16-game win streak for over a week, will finally take the ice tomorrow when they go to the Vegas Golden Knights. That's going to be history in the making. If they win, the Oilers get to 17 wins in a row and tie the 92-93 Penguins for the longest win streak in NHL history. However, Vegas at home just kind of seems like the perfect place for it all to come to an end, and it's a great accompaniment to Super Bowl week in Sin City. Braden, lastly, what's happening with the Kidsters? What's happening with the Preps?
The rankings won't be out till about 3 o'clock Pacific time today. But that being said, it will have some interesting moves in the basketball top 10. Men's basketball, or sorry, boys basketball in high school had some big games over the weekend. Saints over Cathedral Catholic on Friday in a battle of 2 ranked teams. The Costa Canyon, 5th ranked in the city of San Diego, according to Max Preps, beat Santa Fe Christian 60-56. It was Olympian over Madison 67-50. Big one in 2 teams in the top 4. Montgomery, number 2 in the county. I have voted for them for number 1 the last couple of weeks. Beat number 4 Torrey Pines. This score is legit, Craig. 48-19.
Whoa.
In a high school basketball game. Montgomery beat Torrey Pines 48-19. A good showing out of the Montgomery Aztecs over Torrey Pines. Last score for you, Rancho Christian out of town beat Mission Bay 64-60. Mission Bay in the top 10. Again, the rankings from the San Diego Union Tribune will not be released until later this afternoon at 3 o'clock, and we'll have more on that maybe tomorrow when the rankings come out. But it's pretty good basketball games over the weekend in high school basketball. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty, Craig. It's about 2 to 3 games left per team as we get ready to see the postseason coming up in the next week or so.
All right. Well, we had a whole weekend's worth of stuff to dive through, so I think we went closer to 12 minutes on the 12 o'clock Sports Fix today. It's our goal to fit it under 10.
Had a lot to get through. Had a lot to get to.
Had a lot to do. That's what happens. You know, the weekend happens. Even a weekend like last weekend, when if you just asked anyone casually, well, what happened in the world of sports this weekend? You say, not much.
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Especially in February.
How about last round of the Pebble just getting washed out?
What the rain that we were supposed to get that's just pelting Northern California right now.
Yeah.
And the snow that they're getting up there. Oh my God.
They just said, boop.
We're done. Out later.
Saturday's done. We're going to skip Sunday and can't play Monday either.
Well, plus the big party one is up next. The WM, the Waste Management Open. It's WM Open now, but we all know what WM stands for. That looks like a fun event to go to. I'd like to go once.
I would like to go once as well.
I'm not at my age of 28 getting there at like 3 a.m. and sprinting to the 16th hole. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I want to do that. I heard it's a long run. I know people that have done it before. You got to stretch out, make sure you don't pull or tear anything on that long run. But that looks like a fun environment to go watch a golf tournament leading into the Super Bowl too. It's great.
Yeah, it's always going to be longer than you think. And I assume that wherever they're coming in, you could maybe go from 18 to 17 to get to 16, as opposed to maybe having to like run around the whole entire course.
I was told that it's like very far away from where the entrance is. Like it's a haul for sure. Like, you know, you might start out of the gate hot, but you got to pace yourself to get there. At least that's what I was told. I've never been there, so I don't really know.
Who knows? Maybe next year I'll take my revenge on Annie and schedule a week to go see some spring training action and then go to the Waste Management, the WM Open. Normally, of course, spring wouldn't be happening at the same time. So maybe it's first you go to the WM Open and then you stick around a week and be at spring training and get to one of those opening sets of spring training backfield days, all the glory of seeing all these kids starting to get ready and get their seasoning and all of it. Maybe that's the way to go. And then just saddle you cats for a week with the show.
Yeah. We should just do the show at the WM.
I even like this plan better.
I love it. I'm all about remotes. I don't know what we need to be there for. We just follow Xander Schauffele around since he's the local product.
I guess we need Xander to like win every major this year.
Right. So it's like a hot pressing thing. Yeah.
It's a local story. No, it's a local
story. We're the flagship of Xander Schauffele. He's a big Padres fan.
Can we make that official?
Make that a thing.
Your station for Xander Schauffele.
We got to do it before the morning show gets the idea.
Great point.
So we got to be on
Great
it.
point. We got to jump.
Be on it.
We got to jump this like literally now because Ben probably just heard that and went, "Yep."
Yeah, texting at him. No. We called it first. We
Yep.
got since nobody does it the farmers either. We want to do the farmers and the WM, and that's it. That's all we need.
Just support his West Coast swing.
That's right.
The home of Xander's West Coast swing. 97.3 The Fan.
Look, you already got the script ready for the big voice guy. It's a good spot.
All right, there's your 12 o'clock sports fix for today. When we come back, we've got a little more Padres talk to discuss as we continue to kind of parse our way through what Eric Grupner had to say. What are we doing with Ha-Sung Kim? What are we not doing with Ha-Sung Kim? I feel like we have to revisit this all the time. Plus, the Dodgers held their Fan Fest this weekend. I have thoughts on what I saw. And coming up at 12:45, the debut of our Silly Games segment, where we will be potentially qualifying one of you for a 2-night stay at Westgate Las Vegas and 2 tickets to see Air Supply live. But you're going to have to beat me today in the Immaculate Game. All of that coming up here as the 12 o'clock hour of Annie and Elsten rolls on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 1223 on the Fan. Welcome back. Annie and Elsten here with you on 97.3 The Fan. Craig Elsten with Braden Soprenet today. Annie will be back on Wednesday. She promises. Salute to Champions is tonight. San Diego Sports Association. It has dominated most of her January and has created the Annie or Elsten show on 97.3 The Fan. That is about to change. It's going to change on Wednesday. Can't wait to have Annie back and in the saddle full time. Me and Braden hanging out and holding down the fort in the interim and continuing to do so tomorrow as well. Well, we played a lot of stuff from Eric Grupner in the 11 a.m. hour. We did offer you the opportunity to jump in and talk about it. 833-288-0973. If you have some reactions to what we heard. You know, it's interesting, Braden. Ken Rosenthal, his latest column on The Athletic had a piece of it devoted, about a third of it devoted to the Padres. Where are the Padres outfielders was the question he was asking. And he brought up the same kids who got directly name-checked by Padres CEO Eric Grupner today in terms of Jacob Marcy, Graham Pauley, and Jackson Merrill as potentially young players that could be asked to step into an everyday major league starting outfield role. None of those players, you can take all of those players combined, add up their experience combined, and they don't have one AA season between the three of them. They all just got a taste of AA last year. So it is a nerve-wracking situation to be sure, and one that we hope those kids will do well. But the other thing that Rosenthal said is that Ha-Seong Kim continues to generate a lot of trade interest from around Major League Baseball. I combine that with Eric Grupner mentioning the great giveaways the Padres have this year, including Ha-Seong Kim's bobbleheads, and specifically saying how excited Padres fans should be to see Ha-Seong Kim play in Korea. It really just makes me wonder, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? We've talked about it so much. We've had whole segments on the three different paths the Padres can take with Kim, right? Extend him, hold him for a year and let him go, or make a trade, which you should probably do before the season begins. We're getting close, and we have no more resolution whatsoever.
Seems to be the same question that we keep talking about over and over again. There's Jake Waters in the chat. Trading Ha-Seong Kim after the opening two games. That would be ridiculous. If that happened, I mean, that would be the writing would be on the wall of the Padres' aspirations and goals at that point in time. But I think to me, the quieter it gets on Ha-Seong Kim being traded, the more likely he's going to be on the team until the end of the year. And then they're just going to let him go at the end of the year. Because I also think, as much as I think it's the smart move, and you agree, we've agreed that the smart move here is to potentially trade Ha-Seong Kim for some players that could fill out the rest of the roster, because you have these guys coming up, right? You have the Jackson Merrills, and you can move Jake Cronenworth over to second. You have the ability to replace Ha-Seong Kim to an extent, obviously not from the fan favorite standpoint, but from a baseball standpoint, yes, you do. And it's the only thing left still not tied down to the ship right now for the Padres. But where I'm going with this is, once the season starts, once the first pitch is thrown in Seoul, South Korea, you cannot trade Ha-Seong Kim anymore. You lost your opportunity unless the Padres are like 10 games out of first, not out of first, because they might be that. Unless they're 10 games out of a wild card come the trade deadline and there's no hope in sight and you're just trying to part ways with guys, selling him at the trade deadline in any situation is worse than just trading him before the season starts. In terms of the whole, trying to toe the fine line of dealing with fans while also trying to make your ball club the best as humanly possible. That's why they just rip the Band-Aid off if you're going to trade him. You can't slowly start peeling it as you get to the trade deadline.
Yeah, if you trade Ha-Seong Kim in late July, it means two things. The first thing is it's telling the fans explicitly that we're punting off of a season. And of course, the standings might have told us all that before the trade deadline did. But the other thing it's telling you is that the team that they put together for 2024 didn't work, because keeping Ha-Sung Kim is to win with Ha-Sung Kim. Keeping Ha-Sung Kim is because he's going to impact positively your team on the field in 2024. If you're trading him at midseason, it means you should have traded him in the spring,
right,
when you had the chance to get a better deal.
Keeping him means that he is more valuable on the team to win in 2024 than any type of package back would be. He's more beneficial to the Padres winning in 2024 than anything that they got back in return for 2024 is what that would mean if you decided to keep him at that spot. I don't think. How about, let me ask you this now, because we've talked about what Kim might potentially get. We just saw that Bobby Witt Jr. is way younger than Ha-Sung Kim, got the Xander Bogaerts contract.
Basically.
Almost exactly, right? I mean, I know there's some opt-outs mixed in there more than Bogaerts, but what does Ha-Sung Kim get now? Knowing what Bobby Witt Jr. has gotten, knowing what Xander Bogaerts has gotten, knowing that he's a shortstop, not a second baseman or a third baseman, I can't imagine his contract being affordable. And I'm sorry, Padres fans in the chat, I'm sorry to tell you, he is not taking a discount to stay here in San Diego because he loves the fans. That's just not going to happen.
Well, I continue to think that when you're talking about a potential Ha-Sung Kim future contract, and this is based on him going back out there and having another good year like he did last year, I think you look to the Cubs and the Dansby Swanson deal as a top end comparison to what Ha-Sung Kim could get. I don't think that he would get more than what you saw Swanson get in Chicago because of the lack of number one player pedigree that Swanson had, because of the total amount of time in American professional baseball and the comparative ages. Nonetheless, I think he'd get something very, very similar to that. And the only way you could sign him to a Padre market friendly deal would be to sign something extremely long with Ha-Sung Kim, which once again brings us back to where we were before. That's not the sustainable way for the San Diego Padres to get through the 2020s. Eric Grupner made that crystal clear in both the things he said and the things he didn't say in today's interview on Ben and Woods. The word sustainability is coming up a lot, and signing another player approaching his 30s in the same position group where you've got everybody locked up to a very, very long-term deal, it just doesn't make sense on many levels in San Diego. I say this, I will once again repeat this, as one of Ha-Sung Kim's biggest fans in San Diego, as someone who loves to watch him play. He's my favorite player on the team. I have a Ha-Sung Kim jersey, and if the Padres announced a signing of a Ha-Sung Kim extension, I would personally celebrate because my favorite player is staying in San Diego. But the baseball mind side of me says I cannot make this make sense in my head.
How much do you value Fangraphs projections?
Okay, with the caveat that I don't think projections catch players getting better. I think that they create a template to show how players slowly get worse. But within that, I respect it a lot.
I mean, his number, obviously it's showing him on a decline, but he has the projections according to Fangraph that are identical to Jake Cronenworth's projections for next year. Do we think Ha-Sung Kim's getting better where he's going to get, when he gets this contract, it's going to be, paying him for what he's going to be? Or is this a contract that would be paying him for what he has done? Because as of right now, some numbers that kind of show the general synopsis of a player just in terms of, comparison to the rest of the league. I mean, his WRC plus projection for next year is a 103, 3.1 WAR, which is better than Jake Cronenworth's at that point in time. But he's projected to get his traditional numbers of a 248 average, a 331 on base, and a 392 slug with a WOBA of a 318. These are all good, solid, average major league numbers. They're not something that's jumping off the page where I got to give this guy a huge deal to be a shortstop in the future. I mean, you don't even know what position he's going to play for the Padres in particular, especially when other teams might be willing to pay him a lot of money to be their everyday starting shortstop.
If he, and I'll just, again, I feel like, as you said, we're retracing ground here, but sometimes you have to retrace ground, especially when things don't happen.
Got to refresh.
Padres can only sign Ha-Sung Kim to be their starting shortstop. That is the only way you would ever even consider signing him, is if signing him also meant flipping Bogaerts off the position. Mike Schilt, in his long interview with Kevin Acee, Q&A heading into spring training, kind of demurred a little bit on the Xander Bogaerts position change situation. Got to say thanks to Ben here. Let me rustle this so you can hear physically that it exists. You see it all as well on the chat. He printed this out, the transcript of that chat. What position will Xander Bogaerts play this season? Mike Schilt. That's a good question. Right now, he's playing shortstop. Question, have you talked to him about a move to the right side of the infield? Answer, not in earnest. We're going to spend some time together soon. He did a nice job at shortstop. Obviously, Kim won a Gold Glove and can play shortstop. The great news is there are options there. Well, there's not really an option if Ha-Sung Kim is out the door next year. If Ha-Sung Kim's out the door, Xander Bogaerts is your shortstop, and you just move forward as such. If you ever did sign Ha-Sung Kim, you'd want to immediately flip-flop positions so that you extracted maximum value out of Ha-Sung Kim's defensive prowess by putting him at the most important defensive spot on the infield. And then you would ask Xander, hey, are we doing this whole thing, second base, first base with him and Cronenworth, or are you going to pick a position and stick to it, whether it be second base or first base? That's all part and parcel of this. There's so many complicated things that get involved with keeping Ha-Sung Kim, Braden, and there's a very simple way to make it make sense, which is to have him on another roster.
Right, absolutely. I mean, here's the other thing with Xander Bogaerts. He's good enough to play shortstop for the next 2 to 3 years.
Right.
I mean, he is.
For sure.
And so he signs a big deal with the Padres. He's going to be like, you signed me to be a shortstop. We talked about this. And the last thing you want to do is be the organization that backdoors all their players on certain contract negotiations for certain positions that they play and everything else. Because at the end of the day, as much as people say like everybody's going to do for the betterment of the team, that's not necessarily the case. And I'm not saying that Xander wouldn't do what's best for the team, but there is something to be said about you signing to be a shortstop. He is your shortstop, and he's not at the age yet where he has to move to first base, because eventually he's going to have to move to first base, and he's going to have to come to those terms himself. But it's not within 2 to 3. It's not within 2 years of signing that big deal. It's going to be like 4 to 5 years after signing that deal, where all of a sudden he's going to understand and realize he can't get to the balls he used to in the hole. He can't get to those plays up the middle. He can't necessarily make the plays at shortstop he used to be able to make. But for the guy that he is, I mean, he's the player that makes all the routine plays, doesn't make spectacular plays in general. He's going to be good at that for a long time at shortstop. And he's not probably going to willingly want to move. So another problem you're going to have to face with potentially trying to sign Ha-Sung Kim, because then if you do sign him, one of those guys is going to be making more money than what the position they're playing asks for.
Absolutely 100% correct. Great way to put a tag on this particular segment of discussion. All right, this is the great time for you to dial in now and get ready to take me on head-to-head in Immaculate Game, which is today's game that we are playing in our Silly Games segment. Coming up next in the 12:45 segment, your chance to get registered for a 2-night stay at Westgate, Las Vegas, and 2 tickets to Air Supply. Call in now, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973, looking for an opponent for the Immaculate Game. When we come back, Annie and Elsten right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Ben and Woods on the Fan.
When you trade Juan Soto and Trent Grisham to the Yankees and you get back, by all accounts right now, a really nice package back, well, you saved a ton of money. I would have bet the house, Benny, that money was going to go back into finding those pieces on the corners that you need, maybe a DH, whatever. And I'm not saying that they still won't, but it hasn't happened yet. And that surprises me. Who's going to DH for this team? Matt Batten? What are we talking about? Eggy Rosario is going to be your DH?
Listen to Ben and Woods weekdays from 6 to 10 on 97.3 The Fan.
Hey guys, did you know that half of men over age 50 have erectile dysfunction on some level? Whether you have mild, moderate, or severe ED, West Coast Men's Health can help. We don't prescribe pills and hope they work. Instead, we treat the root cause of the problem with acoustic wave therapy, which breaks down plaque, unclogs arteries, and restores blood flow. We have treated thousands of men across our 11 locations nationwide and have established ourselves as a leader in the industry. So whether you have ED, Peyronie's disease, or suffer from chronic pain, such as neuropathy, carpal tunnel, or Dupuytren's contracture, West Coast Men's Health can help. No pills, no shots, no surgery, just results.
With clinics in Mission Valley and Carlsbad, call West Coast Men's Health at 619-826-6631. That's 619-826-6631. 619-826-6631. Online at westcoastmenshealth.com.
It's easy to think all money managers are pretty much the same, but at Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Different? How? You sell high commission investment products, right?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission-based investment products.
Well, you must earn commissions on trades.
Nope, never at Fisher. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in our client's best interest. It's the highest standard of care for a financial advisor.
How do you know what's in their best interest?
We get to know our clients and then tailor a portfolio based on their goals and needs.
But you probably sneak in some hidden and layered fees.
No, we have one transparent management fee, structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, you really do look out for your clients.
That's because our top priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. It might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments and securities involve the risk of loss.
Total by Verizon is wireless that goes all in for you. That means unlimited 5G data powered by Verizon, priced by us at $25 a line for 4 lines on the unlimited plan. And as always, no contracts. Sounds pretty hard to beat, but all in is all in. So we added international calling to fill the year with more "Hey girl," because it can't be total unless it's all in. Find a store and exclusive deals at totalbyverizon.com. Monthly rate when you activate with autopay discount beginning the month after you enroll plus taxes and fees. Additional restrictions apply. See website for data management practices and full terms.
Okay, picture this. It's Friday afternoon when a thought hits you. I can spend another weekend doing the same old whatever, or I can hop into my all-new Hyundai Santa Fe and hit the road. With available H-Track all-wheel drive and 3-row seating, my whole family can head deep into the wild. Conquer the weekend in the all-new Hyundai Santa Fe. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details. Hyundai, there's joy in every journey. 2024 Santa Fe available early 2024.
2 minutes. 2-minute warning. We're back from break in 2 minutes on 97.3 The Fan.
Do you need more time to get a health insurance plan for 2024? If so, I have some good news. You now have till February 9th to enroll through Covered California. With financial help, your plan could be $10 or less per month. And there's more help this year to lower the cost of doctor visits, prescriptions, and emergency care. So don't wait. Sign up by Friday, February 9th. Covered California is ready to help you every step of the way. Just go to coveredca.com.
You can live out your MasterChef dreams when you find a professional on Angie to tackle your dream kitchen remodel. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
Some people just know the best places to eat around town. Those are the people who know to choose Allstate. They know exactly where to go to get exactly what you're wanting. They know where to find the spiciest hot pot, the gooeyest brownies, and the tenderest, most flavorful portobello steak. Those people also know that safe drivers save 40% with Allstate.
Saving 40% is based on the national average premium savings for Allstate auto customers with a clean driving record versus those without. Savings vary by state and vary based on how you buy, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
This is Andrew Perloff with an Odyssey Sports Minute, sponsored by Angie. Angie makes it easier than ever to get home projects done well. Get started at Angie.com. Super Bowl week kicks off in Vegas with an unexpected storyline. The Kansas City Chiefs are emerging as the bad guys. Amazing how things changed. A few years ago, they were the lovable new kids on the block. But success breeds contempt. That's a double-edged sword of being a dynasty. Everyone wants to watch you, but they might not like you. I'm Andrew Perloff.
All the sports, music, news, and podcasts that you want are all on the free Odyssey app.
I like it these days and shows.
I listen on the app.
I love the variety.
Download it today.
Miss any part of Annie and Elsten today? No problem. You can hop back into the moments you missed with chapters on the free Odyssey app. Just download the Odyssey app. That's AUDACY. Search for 97.3 The Fan, tap our show, and find your favorite moments. This might be your favorite moment going forward. It is our 1245 segment. We are calling it our Silly Games segment. This is where each and every day we're going to play a rotating game that sometimes will pit me against the listener. Sometimes we'll pit Annie Heilbrunn against the listener. Braden is our producer. He's our Wink Martindale. He is the man in charge of making sure all the games operate smoothly. We introduced our games last week, Braden. Coming up later in the week, you'll hear our two, I'd say more general category games. Fast Money, which is straight up a ripoff of the end of game contest on Family Feud. Remember, once the winning family takes down the other family, then they go to the Fast Money, where you send your Aunt Betsy into the silenced room, and then you get 5 questions, and then she gets the same 5 questions, and you try to add up to 200 points. In this case, you'll be going head-to-head with either Annie or myself. Also, our Hot Potato game, that's a classic list game where we're going to go back and forth, and whoever gets 2 out of 3 right wins. But today, Braden, and especially with Annie not here today, let's get immaculate.
Oh, you think you know more history about professional athletes than Annie and Elsten? Okay, let's see if you can be immaculate with the Immaculate Game right now on 97.3 The Fan.
All right, playing today is Wes from Claremont. Wes, what's going on?
What's going on, Braden?
Good to have you on the air, Wes. All right, we are playing Immaculate Game. Here is how it is going to work, my friend. I am going to walk out of the studio, and Braden is going to set today's Immaculate Grid for you. He'll give you the columns on the top. He'll give you the rows on the left side, and then you'll have 90 seconds as he goes square by square with you to try and fill in a baseball Immaculate Grid. At the end, I will come back in. Same thing. I won't have heard what you did. I won't know which grid we're playing, and then I'll have 90 seconds to do the same. At the end, whoever fills in the most boxes is the winner. In the case of a tie, tiebreaker is rarity score. Wes, do you want to go high or low? Do you want to have the most popular answers and go high, or do you want to look for the rarest answers and go low?
Let's play it safe. We'll go high.
All right, going high, playing the Immaculate Game. I'm walking out of the studio. Braden, the floor is yours.
All right, Wes, let's get this thing started and take a look. There are all those on YouTube. You can kind of check it out. Apologize for my spelling of trying to get some names correct as you go through it. But top row, San Diego Padres logo, 30-plus save season in pitching, 20-plus win season in pitching. On the left side, you got the Angels logo, the New York Yankees logo, and the Atlanta Braves logo. You'll have 90 seconds to answer these 9 squares. And for any reason, if you stump on any of them, you will be able to go back, or you could say pass, and we can go back and get there if we have time to do so. So we'll start with you, Wes. 90 seconds on the clock after you give me your first answer. Can you name me a player that played for the Padres and Angels organization?
Justin Upton.
Can you name me a Angel with 30-plus saves in a single season?
Troy Percival.
Can you give me an Angel with 20-plus wins in a single season for a pitcher?
Let's go Nolan Ryan.
Can you name me a New York Yankee that was also a San Diego Padre?
Yankee Padre. Let's go Michael King.
Can you name me a New York Yankee with 30-plus saves in a single season?
Mariano Rivera.
Can you name me a Yankee with 20-plus wins in a single season?
Let's go Andy Pettitte.
Can you name me a Atlanta Braves San Diego Padre?
Brave Padre. Let's go Craig Kimbrell.
Can you name me a 30-plus save season for an Atlanta Brave?
Let's go John Smoltz.
Can you name me a 20-plus win season for an Atlanta Brave?
Greg Maddux.
All right. You got plenty of time afterwards. So I will bring in Craig here, and we'll check out his thing in just a little bit. But that was a good job by you. The one downside, obviously, is the fact that Michael King has not played for the Padres yet. So that one will not count at this point in time. So unfortunate for that. But Wes did a really good job, Craig. Really good job. He did get stumped on one thing, and that one thing was picking a player that hasn't played for a team yet. So we'll get to that in just a little bit.
Set the grid for me, please.
Grid is set on YouTube and on the air right now. Top row, Padres logo, 30-plus save season, 20-plus win season in pitching. Left side column, Angels logo, Yankees logo, and the Braves logo. You will have 90 seconds on the clock after you answer your first one, which will be, can you name me a San Diego Padre Los Angeles Angel?
Absolutely. Let's put Phil Nevin in that slot.
Can you name me a Angel with 30-plus saves in a single season?
Let's go Brian Harvey.
Can you name me an Angel with 20-plus wins in a single season?
20-plus wins. I'm going to just be safe here and go Bartolo Colon.
Can you name me a Yankee Padre?
A Yankee Padre, absolutely. How about Ruben Rivera, baby?
Wow.
Woob the boo.
Ruben Rivera. Haven't heard that name in a long time. Yankees, 30-plus save season.
Well, we're going most popular answer. Mariano Rivera. That's easy. And a Yankee with 20-plus wins? How about Ron Guidry? Louisiana Lightning.
Rob Guidry.
Ron Guidry. Ron Guidry.
Guidry. Cool.
Bingo. Ding. Okay, 3 to go.
Yeah.
A Padre who was an Atlanta Brave. Ugh. How about Matt Kemp?
Matt Kemp. 30-plus save season for the Braves.
30-plus season for the Braves. Mark Wohlers. I'd just like to see a ton in green, yes. And 20-plus wins for the Braves, Tommy Glavine.
Glavine. Good.
Immaculate.
And Craig is immaculate. Congratulations.
With a rarity score of 123. That was an easy one.
Craig is our winner. He got 9 for 9. Unfortunately for Wes, he is 8 for 9.
Oh,
as Wes. He was, he had Michael King for Yankees Padres. Hadn't played a game yet.
Wes, it is such a common mistake. In fact, Friday, Wes, when we did our warm-up game with my buddy Sammy, Sam Levitt, I got stuck. And in that case, I didn't have the grid to look at like that. That helped me so much, Braden, by the way, just to be able to have the grid to focus on there, a blank grid, that I got stuck on the Jorge Polanco. It was Twins Seattle. And I was like, oh, yeah, Jorge Polanco. They just, oh, no, that won't count because he hasn't played a game yet. And then it bricked me. It got me stuck. But Wes, good try, man. 8 for 9. That's going to be good enough to beat me many days.
All right, bud. Maybe I'll catch you next week.
All right. Good luck next time. And if you don't want to take me on an immaculate game, maybe you want to take on Annie in Fast Money or either one of us in Hot Potato, which will both be coming up over the course of the next 2 days. All right, Braden, as producer of Silly Games, how did you feel that went?
I thought it went really well. How would you like the throw on the board on the YouTube channel?
Game changer.
That was pretty cool.
Absolute game changer. Makes it so much more enjoyable for the YouTube fans. Also, I can see in real time if I brick out a box. So that's
right.
Very nice.
So there's a little bit of an advantage, but maybe our callers should tune into the YouTube chat while they do it so they can see it'd be a little bit of, actually, you know what? I think the timing's not bad in terms of delay.
Yeah.
So they'd be able to check it out a little bit. But I thought it looked a lot better on the YouTube chat. You got to see everything.
Me too.
Way easier at seeing the grid, obviously. But that was pretty good. The only downside is you can see, like, sometimes with some of the older players I don't really know, I have to go through. I'm like, how do you spell this guy's name?
Right.
There's a lot of different ways to spell, Tom, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he has for some reason a U in there for no reason.
I mean, we could have had plenty of answers for that left column, the Padres interaction column there, Padre and Angel. Now, if I was going for a low rarity score, Braden, right there, I would pick the man traded for Phil Nevin. Do you remember who the Padres traded to get Phil Nevin?
No. What year? Hold on, let me ask. What year was that?
That was 1999.
I was 4 years old. So no, I do not remember who they traded.
Fair. This, we talk about bad Padres trades in history. This is as good a trade as the Padres have ever made in franchise history. They acquired Phil Nevin for utility infielder Andy Sheets.
Wow.
Andy Sheets. Andy, 3 sheets to the wind. Andy Sheets was nondescript and remained nondescript his entire very brief Major League career. Phil Nevin went on to be the all-star third baseman in 2001, hit 41 homers for the team, but a full-time starter from 2000 through, I believe, 2005 for the San Diego Padres, entrenched at the hot corner as the club's third baseman until they started to goof around and try and start him in left field, which did not end well. Wound up being a first baseman for the club before he started moving around. But Phil Nevin for Andy Sheets, one of the best trades in Kevin Towers' history. Now, speaking of trades that weren't as good, Ruben Rivera is who I popped in for San Diego and the Yankees. I mean, we could have picked plenty of guys there. Ed Whitson is one that I saw pop in the chat. That's an excellent one as well. There's literally dozens. Dennis Rasmussen is another one that I could have popped pretty quick right there, but had to go with good old Ruben Rivera stealing Derek Jeter's glove out of the locker room.
Ruben Rivera. Old school name, throwback.
San Diego, Atlanta. Keith Lockhart would have been a choice from back in the day. Gosh, there's plenty of places you could go for San Diego, Atlanta. Why did my mind drift over to Matt Kemp?
I know you could have gone with like any of the Upton brothers. You could have gone with Craig Kimbrell. You could have gone with like I mean, they had so many trades with Atlanta in recent years.
Crime Dog.
Fred McGriff.
Great call. The Crime Dog. Could have gone the other direction. Donnie Elliott. A little Donnie Elliott action. Boy, that was a good trade. Marcus Giles would have been another pick for San Diego and Atlanta. Oh, the wealth of options. All right. 1-0 on the official version of Immaculate Game. I feel good about that. One more hour of Annie and Elsten on the way on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Hour number 4 of the show. Welcome back to it. It's your new midday hang. Annie and Elsten with you on San Diego's number 1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Day 3 of the Annie Interregnum is almost over. The 4-day, really 4.5-day gap where we knew Annie Heilbrunn would not be on the show. Tonight is the Salute to Champions dinner in La Jolla. She's been working on this for the past month in her previous gig with San Diego Sports Association. She's got tomorrow off as well as they do their whole recap and debrief and everything else. And then Wednesday, it is the soft reboot of Annie and Elsten, February 7th, where we will be back fully together and then no longer in and out and out and in and out with the show lineup. We'll actually have Annie and Elsten.
That's what a hamburger is all about.
Indeed it is. And what a burger it is.
What a burger. Now you're talking.
Just did that just to give you that little tickle in the back of the mind. Craig Elsten, Braden Soprano hanging out and holding the fort in the interregnum, so to speak. Having a lot of fun with today's show. First successful defense of the Immaculate Game just took place, and we are excited to let someone else take a crack tomorrow as we transition over to either Fast Money or to Hot Potato. That's up to Braden. We've got 3 games. They're going to rotate. Annie has just made clear that she will not play the Immaculate Game. Does not want to get stumped on a grid. Doesn't want to get hung out on the clothesline of the tic-tac-toe grid of Immaculate Game. So on future episodes of Silly Games, every day, 12:45 on Annie and Elsten, you'll be able to pick your opponent. You'll be able to take on Craig or take on Annie. However, when it comes to the Immaculate Game, you can only take on me. Yeah, it's a rider in her contract. She will not play the Immaculate Game.
I think we need to get her up to speed on it.
You think so?
Yeah, I think she's got to do some practice rounds on her own.
I think, yeah, at least try, right?
That's right. Not live. Don't try the first time live with us, but have her fill out some every once in a while.
See
what
it,
she can do.
Figure it out. I like it. It's going to happen one of these days. Won't happen today. Earlier today, we played some of the clips from Eric Grupner, Padres CEO. He was on with Ben and Woods earlier this morning at 8 a.m. If you missed that interview, they've clipped it out as a separate YouTube interview. They've clipped it out as a separate podcast. You can go back and check it out. There's really nothing brand new in terms of what Eric Grupner had to say. It was a restatement of the Padres' official positions on a lot of things, including there's no current TV deal, Braden, by just talking about the direct-to-consumer opportunities that the Padres are giving their fans to see their product online and to stream it and to have an in-market MLB TV, essentially Padres TV, they are calling that. What's implicit in saying what they have is also what they're not saying that they don't have. They don't have a deal with the regional sports network, and it doesn't appear like anything is coming around the bend anytime soon here in San Diego for that.
They're not getting a big contract for it. Is basically what they're telling us. Is they don't have anybody that wants that has decided to pay the rights. I think Eric Grupner alluded to their hands are tied with stuff that Major League Baseball will and will not let them do at this point in time, because I think that they're going to try to tack on the problem when everybody has to deal with this problem. When I mean everybody, I mean most Major League Baseball teams, because this is going to affect most Major League Baseball teams aside from the ones that are in gigantic markets that have big TV companies in town. So aside from those teams, the Yankees with the Yes Network that they own, with the Red Sox, with Nesson that they, I think, own some of, the Dodgers and Spectrum Sports in LA, in San Francisco, of course, too, with NBC, all those other teams that were the smaller market teams, if you will, throughout Major League Baseball, all had the same regional sports network that is all going to go away at the end of 2024, even though it sounds like there's some streaming platforms that want to get in and try to buy some of these spots. But that being said, it sounds like Major League Baseball is going to try to fix this problem as a whole and not individually case by case. So I think the Padres right now are in a spot where it's like, hey, look, we're going to get the games on TV. We're going to get them on air. We're going to let people be allowed to watch them. We're fitting the bill for this, so we're not paying any media rights. I'm sure most of the money they get back will be enough to cover the expenses, maybe a little bit more with profit, but definitely not $60 million a year worth in terms of like what they have to do in order to put these games on. But I think they're in the process of treading water until they could get more clarity from Major League Baseball at the end of 2024. And that might actually lead into 2025. Who knows when it comes to TV deals, and who knows what type of major contracts Major League Baseball does in fact want to sign, as we alluded to about a month ago, and the major difference between Major League Baseball and the National Football League. With this kind of everybody has their own media rights deals. There's local media programming, which means everybody gets paid differently in these situations.
Yeah, just for comparison, hang on, I got to do 8 billion. 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a million. That's 10 million, 100 million, billion divided by 25. Yeah. So the Dodgers get 8 billion over 25 years. 8 billion over 25 years, $320 million a year for their TV contract. We're going to
just for TV,
not
anything else,
nothing else,
just for TV,
320. So what's their payroll? Over 300 million. It's paid for by their local revenue, their local television revenue, before they get a seat sold at Dodger Stadium or a parking pass handed out or a Dodger dog grilled. They've got their entire gargantuan bloated payroll paid for by the most ridiculous local regional sports network deal in the game. I will say it until I'm blue in the face. This is the next war in Major League Baseball. This is the next stoppage in Major League Baseball. And the big difference is it's not players versus owners. It's going to be owners versus owners, because there's going to come a point as this continues to drill down and as the next 12 teams lose their RSN deal, as the next 12 teams go to over-the-top direct-to-consumer options and adopt all of the costs of creating the production of their game broadcasts, you're going to start looking around and having off seasons where those teams that Braden talked, those 4 or 5 major market teams, major revenue teams, make all the deals and sign all the players. And
they have all the money.
Because they have all the money, and that the disparity widens and widens and widens till the point that owners say we can't do this anymore.
There's no real salary cap. There's no real hindrance on teams from spending. And as much as it's better for players, it's not better for the league in terms of parity. And, that's why the NFL has so many parity type seasons. Not only do they enforce salary caps, but they also enforce salary floors. And on top of all of that, all of their TV money runs through one entity and then split amongst the 32 organizations, not individually, as you're talking about.
$8.35 billion. The Sportsnet Time Warner cable deal over 25 years.
That's like the money like Disney gets. When I was in college, we had a representative from Disney come talk to us. Disney, do you want to know what? It's probably different now because of cord cutting, but Disney's biggest moneymaker was ESPN, because they would make, this is the direct quote from the member from Disney. They would make, this is back in 2016, just in cable subscriptions. So just in people being subscribed to cable, which obviously has changed now. Disney would make $400 million a month just for ESPN being on a cable provider and people subscribing to it with their cable subscriptions.
Right.
A month. I mean, the Dodgers are getting that just with their TV contract before people come through the turnstiles, before somebody buys a Shohei Ohtani t-shirt, any knick-knack of the Dodgers, any concessions, before they host any concerts, any of that. It's all paid. Their entire team is paid for and more, because they don't even get their payroll's not even that high. Everything is covered before the season even starts, just based on Spectrum Sportsnet LA.
Now, let's make something very clear. And again, I know we're retracing ground, but I feel this is ground that has to be retraced over and over again. That concept, that business model, it doesn't work. It hasn't worked It's broken. Year by year, decade by decade, what Braden was talking about, which is in the past, which is that amount that ESPN could count on for all of these cable subscriptions around the country. Well, slowly but surely, consumers started to realize, wait a second, with my cable deal, I'm paying all this money for channels that I never use, channels I never get. And we used to just accept as a matter of routine that we're going to pay for every channel on cable television, even if we use 15 to 20 channels. And then people got wise to that. And that's when cord cutting started. That's when people started going away from cable distribution as their primary method of taking in content. And now the consumer is used to having the choice as to what they're paying for and what they're not paying for. This is why regional sports networks are breaking market by market by market as new deals come up. And the teams are over here going, yeah, give us $60 million and pay for a broadcast and worry about the ratings yourself. And the broadcasters are going, it doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work. People aren't signing up at the level that is needed for this to work on the cable side. They're losing money. They're not interested in creating the same deals. They're declaring bankruptcy over it. Instead, where does it still work? New York, LA, Marquee Network in Chicago, places that are wholly owned in some cases and largely subsidized by the clubs in other cases. So it's breaking, Braden. It's not something that we can go back to.
Well, the other thing too with what you're saying is people don't have to be locked in on any of these things. They just dump it, right? They just pay for it when they need to pay for it, and then they dump it. So there's no reason for these media companies really to have these gigantic media rights anymore, because there's no guarantee. Like, everything's based on performance. So like, it's going to be based on how big your fan base is in reality. Look at college athletics. Who's getting the big money right now? Are they the best teams in college athletics? Are they the best schools with the best teams? No. They're the schools with the biggest alumni bases and the biggest fan bases. That's literally driving everything. So if you want your team to be good, you're going to need people to jump on the bandwagon and watch your product moving forward. I mean, there's so much more emphasis on that based on this a la carte, this what we call in the TV world, a la carte business model. The thing where it gets interesting though is this now swing of they're trying to bundle some of this stuff and they're trying to lock people in to certain contracts, and everything's starting to trend back to these media companies are realizing that that's how they made all their money. And the a la carte thing is only cool for the consumer, not necessarily the people that make the products. So you're starting to see bundles, and you're starting to see all of this kind of swing back a little bit. But, right now, I mean, the Padres are going to have to rely on really their fans in supporting their type of purchases for their players. And that's not attendance, but that's like paying for subscription fees to watch your favorite club and hoping that other people might be interested enough to watch their product.
It's not a pretty situation. It's one that's not fun to talk about. It's never fun to talk about this stuff. TV contracts, local rights deals, cord cutting, over the top, direct to consumer. We're not doing TV production 202 here on Sports Talk Radio.
Sounds like my FTDM classes I used to have to take.
Right? It's critical context for what's happening right now with the San Diego Padres organization, and also what's not happening right now for the San Diego Padres organization. Not trying to re-sign a Blake Snell, not trying to go get an impact center fielder to help this lineup and to compete directly for the top of the NL West. It's the part they're not talking about. It's the part that we have to say the loudest in order for you to understand what's going on. All right, we've got one segment left in between here and Ask Us Anything, our call-in catch-all segment at the end of the show. Got about three other things on my mind that we haven't even gotten to on today's show, including the Lakers' schizoid season. And I got a completely different perspective yesterday on the Super Bowl, one I hadn't heard at all, and one that I'll bring to you when we come back. Annie and Elsten, your new midday hang right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Tune in to Kickoff with Boomer Esiason and Mike Valenti. Analysis from Boomer. Picks from Mike. The biggest stories in the league packed into an hour on Friday night, 7 o'clock, right here on 97.3 The Fan, and always live on the free Odyssey app, presented nationally by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos, brought to you by those who drink it, and by Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement. Andy and Elsten here with you till 2 o'clock when Chris will walk in. Then they'll be here from 2 to 6 p.m. The Scraby Show wraps up your night, Matt Scraby, from 6 to 7 p.m. And then we'll be right back with Ben and Woods tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. until 10. Annie will return to her show on Wednesday, and she will never, ever, ever leave again.
I got an evil laugh with that too.
You thought you could leave, Annie.
Give your best Vincent Price impersonation.
You will never leave again.
Give him that the Haunted Mansion quote where it's like, and you're just to find a way out. There's always my way. Don't look up.
We have 6 hosts here, but room for one more.
That's right, exactly. In the Doom buggy, whatever it's called.
So Andy will be back on Wednesday. We look forward to that glorious morning. Hopefully the rain will have somewhat slowed down. Yesterday I was so psyched. A big shout out to my buddy Todd Armstrong. Invited me semi-impromptu to get back out on the links. Yesterday, Braden, second time in 2024. Not only that I've played golf, but that I've been able to pick up my clubs. Now, part of that's on me for not finding time in the previous month. Part of that, I would say, part of it is adjusting to a new work-life flow and having this show every day 10 to 2 and then getting ready for the show and then Padres Hot Tub and Soccer's Overtime and doing all of my regular San Diego Soccer's work and everything else in between. So I haven't had a lot of time to get the sticks out. And then we went to Chula Vista Golf Course and we walked the whole 18, which is great. Tremendous exercise. Got well over 9 miles walking yesterday just by the time I was home. At least one of that was the dog in the morning, but still great time, way over 20,000 steps. Entertaining day, good company, sun was shining. It was beautiful. Obviously can't golf the rest of this week for the most part, thanks to this crap weather. But my buddy Todd is a big time Raiders fan.
Raiders.
Huge Raiders fan to the point, and all the credit in the world to him that as a San Diegan, he had Raiders season tickets and would fly to Oakland 8 times a year for their home games. And he was there for every home game. And then when the team moved to Las Vegas, well, look, cheaper, easier flight for expatriated Raiders fans, right? It's almost the platonic ideal to put them in Las Vegas. So he kept his season tickets, moving over to Allegiant Stadium. He flies into Vegas for 8 home games a year. And he was talking to me yesterday, Braden, and, likes the show, likes the direction, loves what's happening on the air. And he goes, but I'm just not going to listen to you this week. And I go, why? What's the matter? He goes, well, it's Super Bowl week. Like, well, first off, Todd, the amount of football that we talk on Annie and Elsten, you're probably safe tuning into the show. We'll usually give you some advance notice if Braden's football segment is coming up. We're not the show that opens up by spending 25 to 40 minutes on the National Football League. It's just not the direction we've taken this show. It's not the direction we're going to take this show. But this is why my buddy Todd, Braden, is completely avoiding Super Bowl talk this week. Because, and again, this is a perspective I completely had not even considered until he shared it with me. For a Raider fan, this week is torture. For a Raider fan, this is fingernails on the chalkboard until they start getting pulled out with bamboo, tweezers, because it is your Bay Area rival, the 49ers, the team that Raiders fans absolutely hated as their Cross Bay opponent, as the Richie Rich team, as the highfalutin pinkies in the air sipping wine team, the 49ers, against their longtime hated divisional rivals, the Kansas City Chiefs. If there's a team that Raiders fans hate the most, and it's not the Niners, it's probably the Chiefs. And now the Niners are playing the Chiefs on the Raiders field inside the Raiders stadium. I never thought of that, but now that I hear it, I get it. Bad week for you.
It's a bad week. Yeah. Is it ever a good week to be a Raiders fan anymore?
And Antonio Pierce is all right.
Yeah, good for him. I mean, they've just been so bad for so long. As a former Chargers fan, I used to hate the Raiders. As the kids say, I blank with the Raiders now. I'm on board with the Raiders. I like watching them play. I hope that they have success. They're the only, for some reason, they're the only team in the AFC West I no longer hate. I still don't like the Broncos. Broncos fans annoy me. And then, the Chiefs have had so much success that it's like, I can't be like super cool with the Chiefs, but the Raiders, I'm in on the Raiders. I could get with the Raiders.
Sure.
I'd like to see them win. I'd like to see the Raiders win. It'd be great. But I can imagine why this Super Bowl would be tough to watch if you're a Raiders fan. I will say this. I mean, as a football guy that you know that I am, I can't listen to an entire week's worth of one game buildup. And in any game. It could be, I mean, it's a Super Bowl. It gets boring after a while. I mean, there's only so many ways you could cross the the different ins and outs of a game. Same thing with the college football playoff. They spend a month talking about the first two games. It's just overplayed. It's just so overhyped. I won't really get an interest in listening what's going on in the Super Bowl until like Friday. If I still had a team, I don't even have a team anymore. I mean, I kind of root for the Cowboys, but not really. It's not the same.
Well,
if we had a team, it'd be a little different, but I don't have the interest. I don't have the interest in listening to the same, oh, it's Mahomes and Brock Purdy like the entire week.
Well, we'll have on Ross Tucker tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I'll get our fill in for that.
So we'll have our
Get a
Odyssey
taste.
NFL Insider on for the second to last time. Ross Tucker before the next season comes around. Plus Friday, we'll have Braden's football segment. So it'll be one game. It won't be that long a segment, but we'll have Braden's football segment. I'll probably say the same thing then that I'll say right now. I think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. I think that this is the Chiefs' year. That all the stuff that happened in the middle of the year and all of the people that were piling on the Chiefs and all the people who were hate watching and saying, ha, 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 that's what you get for having Taylor Swift support your team. You're all just going to hate Sunday. I think you're all just going to despise Sunday because the Chiefs are going to win and Taylor is going to jump up and give Travis Kelce a big hug and a kiss after the Chiefs win the Super Bowl again. They passed the tests. They went to Buffalo and won. They went to Baltimore and won. Their defense is playing well. I think the Chiefs are going to win. If the 49ers win, I'll go, oh, okay, well, that happened instead. It's not going to affect my life in any material way whatsoever. So if you are a Niners fan, listen to what I had just said and summarily dismiss it. You don't have to listen to anything I have to say about the NFL and go, well, this guy, let me tell you, he's done 88 hours of research and he knows what he's talking about. When I talk to you about the Padres, when I talk to you about baseball and many other topics, I would like you to hold my opinion in that regard. When it comes to the National Football League, I think the Chiefs are going to win. And if they don't, my reaction will be like this. Oh, okay.
I think the Niners. I think the Niners are gonna get them.
All right, cool.
I don't agree with their whole against all odds thing. Here's the difference. This is for all sports now. How come everybody that wins the championship has to say nobody thought we could do this, including teams that like everybody knew was gonna win?
Yeah,
the Niners are arguably the best team in the National Football League, as assembled, top to bottom, across the board, and they have been all year long. Yet they have this like us against the like we're gonna prove all the haters wrong and nobody gave us a chance. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like you had to bet like 3 weeks of the season. It was like a foregone conclusion. You're going to the Super Bowl. I can't with this. Same thing with like, Georgia for 2 years in a row. It's like nobody thought we were going to win. You won every game for like two straight years. Everybody thought you were going to win. Like Michigan tried to pull that too. It's like, okay, guys, come on now.
Yeah. No, people just didn't want Michigan to win because they all thought that they were cheating.
But still, it's like the kid. Everybody wants to be like this. I don't say victim or anything, but they just want to be like, oh, we were counted. You weren't. You were the favorite to win, and you won. Just accept it. Don't try to spew your BS that nobody thought you could do it. That was such a lie.
That's why the NFL is overcovered. When something gets completely overcovered and oversaturated, then every single fan base feels that they were slighted.
It would be like
in some way.
The Dodgers being like, yeah, nobody thought we could win this year.
Yeah.
We just signed Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto, and no, we proved the haters wrong. We overcame all odds. We finally beat a division rival in the playoffs, and we went on to win a World Series and a non-shortened season. Nobody thought that we could do it. They said when we had Ohtani, there was no way he was going to do. I mean, it's the same crap by every team that wins a championship. Nobody thought we could do this. It's such a lie.
I'll just say in 1 minute, and we'll go to break, and then we'll do Ask Us Anything to wrap up the show. The Dodgers had their fan fest at Dodger Stadium last weekend.
Mookie.
And I'm sure you saw just some of the images coming out of Dodger Stadium of Shohei Ohtani being up against the wall and surrounded by 300 journalists, all to ask him the same question in a different way. And it just reminded me of where we were a year ago with the Padres Fan Fest and with those expectations of, oh my God, here we go, super team, the Beatles, this and that, and how much that captures the super casual sports fan. It's about the only way that you can get somebody who's a super casual sports fan to be interested in baseball at all, is to be like, look at this super team, look at this wild thing that's going on. And I gotta just say, I saw that and went, cool, that's you guys now. Now, does it mean I'm not excited that the Padres aren't swimming in the deepest end of the pool? I mean, it was great to sign Manny Machado. It was great to announce the Tatis extension. The Bogarts one is still a little bit of a head scratcher, but it was cool to see that we were spending big money in San Diego. And then you just go a year down the road and you go, oh man, these are all lengthy commitments that are dangerous for my club's long-term health and success. And Dodger fans, that's coming for you. That's coming for you. It's not going to be right away. And if you guys win a couple of championships in between, then it's probably going to be worth it in the wash when it's all said and done. But it's coming. That's coming. The weight of expectations is something Shohei has shouldered in terms of the burden of a nation dreaming upon his greatness. He has never dealt with that for his Major League Baseball team. And listen, there's enough talent in LA. No one can concern troll this. I don't want anyone to think I'm concerned trolling the Dodgers. Good on them. They've got their $1 zillion payroll. They're going to win, 110 games this year or whatever they win. And if they win anything less than that, it's going to be a weird season for the LA Dodgers. And if they win anything less than the World Series, it's going to be a deeply, deeply, deeply disappointing season for the LA Dodgers. We know what that disappointment feels like. We experienced it ourselves last year with a season that went completely the wrong way. So as I saw all those Dodger fans jam-packed into each one of the concourses at Dodger Stadium, via con Dios, I say, the pressure is 150% on you. And really, why do they even say that? Because 100% is the most you can have. It's one of those classic cliches.
That won't kick into the playoffs anyway. This Dodger club knows how to win in the regular season because they know at the end of the day it doesn't matter because they know they could coast into the postseason.
Sure.
And that when they have to play with pressure, in the last 10 years, when have they had to play with pressure? Regular season or postseason? Postseason. And what have they done with it?
Not
Absolutely
much.
nothing. But in the regular season, here's the deal. In the regular season, they might win 120 games because they're going to be calm, cool, and they're like, yeah, whatever. We're just going to show up and not have to worry. I mean, playing baseball in general, when you got no pressure, your lights out. I mean, when you got no pressure, you got to go up there and make a hit or get a hit. No pressure to make a play. No pressure to make a pitch. You cruise and you get so much better. And you're going to roll through teams. But all of a sudden, when you go out there in a division round playoff game and the Washington Nationals show up and they had a solo shot to get the game started and you go, oh, here we go again. That's where you're going to see their true colors. So it might be tough watching them and listening to their fans all summer long. I'm just telling you, got Padres fans, you got to hold. You got to wait till October before you can really evaluate any of these teams.
All right, it's time to wrap things up with Ask Us Anything. This is our end of show catch-all segment, and it's a call-in segment as well. We had our best ever, Braden, Ask Us Anything on Friday. So let's see if we can match or exceed that today. Call in now, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When you come on the air, you will be asking us a question. That's because it's a segment called Ask Us Anything, and we remind you it can be about sports, but it doesn't have to be. In fact, we prefer if it's not. Ask Us Anything is next. Annie and Elsten, right here on The Fan.
Ben and Woods on The Fan.
I hate mustard water. I will shake at least 10 times.
How about when you have hot dog water that spills like on your hand or something?
When there's just a little bit of freezer burn on the ice cream.
God.
Caller, you're on the air.
My worst thing is when you eat chicken wings or legs and you find one of the little feathers with the hair follicle.
What?
Listen to Ben and Woods weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m. on 97.3 The Fan.
The women of San Diego's newest professional volleyball team, the San Diego Mojo, are here, and together they're rising.
I'm Hannah Tapp, number 8, middle blocker. See you at our home opener on February 23rd.
Learn more at SanDiegoMojoBB.com.
It's a revolution.
If you missed any of today's show, don't forget Annie and Elsten is also available as a podcast for you hour by hour. Key interviews broken out when they happen. Subscribe to Annie and Elsten on any podcast platform. You can find us, of course, inside the Odyssey app, but we're out there. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, whichever platform you use, you can find Annie and Elsten. Last segment, hold for bumper.
Her name is Annie. His name is Craig. They're joined by Braden. But who are they really? Never hurts to ask. It's time to ask us anything on Annie and Elsten.
Annie will be back on Wednesday. Can't wait to have Annie back on Wednesday. Look forward to that. All right. Ask us anything where you can ask us anything. It doesn't have to be about sports. In fact, we kind of prefer it if it's not. 833-288-0973 is our number. It's open. If you dial up now, Braden will slap you on hold, and then we will call you up. So go ahead and call in, 833-288-0973. When you do come on, ask us a question. Meanwhile, we've got some good questions already percolating inside the chat on YouTube, Braden. First one up is very time appropriate. What is the best Super Bowl side if you're going to a Super Bowl party? What are you looking for in the spread as a Super Bowl side dish?
That's pretty good. I usually like to sample on a couple of things, but my go-to, me and my buddies' go-to right now for just game day kind of snack or dip or whatever is buffalo chicken dip.
I've heard so many people make the buffalo chicken dip.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it seems increasingly popular.
There's a lot of different ways you can make it. We've been just simply buying it at the store, but I made one from scratch. And the thing, like when you make it from scratch, it's pretty good. Like you throw everything in like a tin and like smoke it. So like throw it on the smoker, but you like a rotisserie chicken, get some buffalo sauce, some cream cheese, some regular cheese, and a little bit of the ranch seasoning packet. Just throw it all in a tray, and then throw it in the smoker, and then let it smoke for like an hour or two, and then pull it out and just mix it all up together, and you're good to go. It's good stuff.
That sounds delicious. I think objectively, a Super Bowl party that doesn't have a good fresh guacamole in the spread is
Blocks money.
It's one that I think is just slightly less than. So, I'm looking for a fresh made, delicious bowl of guacamole. That's going to be a number one Super Bowl side for me. I know that's somewhat generic, but I think it's also deeply appropriate. I'm looking for the thicker tortilla chips for that. Worst thing you can possibly have is the cheap ass tortilla chips. And then you've got a really good, authentic, thick guacamole, and you just reach in with that first chip and
snap. Then you got to go rescue your chip with the next chip you have, and then snap, and then you're the guy that's leaving chips in the dip.
It's the absolute worst. That's why I want to see crinkle cut potato chips as well. I want the ridges at a Super Bowl party. I don't want the smooth, snappy, nasty chips.
I go with the Mission tortilla strips are pretty sturdy. It's pretty
sturdy.
Good. It's pretty good for guacamole.
One day a year, I want a 7-layer dip, and that is on Super Bowl Sunday.
7-layer dip's good.
7-layer dip. I never crave it any other day of the year. Any other day of the year. If you say, I've got 7-layer dip, I'm like, okay. But on Super Bowl Sunday morning, I guarantee you that I will be driving to the supermarket hoping that there is a 7-layer dip there. And when I see it, I'm going to think, this looks delicious today and right now only.
Jalapeno poppers?
I like jalapeno poppers.
Those are money.
Depends on how fresh the jalapeno is, how sharp it is from a spice situation. But
That's
I'm
true.
down.
That's a little kick to it.
I'm
I
down.
like doing homemade everything on that stuff too, but the store-bought ones are fine.
Jocelyn said lumpia. I mean, if you've got a Filipino in the family, there should be a tray of lumpia on your Super Bowl spread. No question about it. Ever had lumpia?
Yes, lumpia is good. It's good stuff.
Ever watched Gladiator movies?
Surely you can't be serious.
Balsamic Vinny asks the same question every day in the chat. 833-288-0973. Still have time if you want to jump in on the phone. Ask us anything. 833-288-0973. Oh, Jocelyn,
like a good deviled egg.
Jocelyn, you can't be more right. This should have been the first thing I said. Deviled eggs. Deviled eggs are amazing. Deviled eggs are delicious. Another thing that I only care about in very specific circumstances. I don't go to the supermarket searching out the deviled egg tray. I never ask my wife, Mitzi, please make me a tray of deviled eggs. But if she makes me a tray of deviled eggs on Sunday, I'm going to be so happy. I'm going to be so excited. Now, here's where I get a little weird.
Guy's trying to plant the seed right now.
I'm completely willing to admit that I'm weird about this. I put a little tiny little dollop of mustard on top of the paprika thing on top of the egg.
Oh, wow.
I mustered it up even
taste?
a little more tang.
I like that.
A little more tang.
I like
Right there.
mustard. Mustard's good.
Big mustard guy. 833-288-0973 in the war between ketchup and mustard. Mustard has already won. Where are the vegan options, asks Matt. Matt, well,
I'm not a vegan, so I don't have vegan ideas.
you know, I'm fine for the deli vegetable tray. I'm fine to have the
You got to
carrots,
mix those in.
the
Those are
broccoli.
good palate cleansers.
Absolutely.
Before your next deal.
You know,
Oh, wow. Jocelyn fired.
hopefully.
Jeez, tell us how you really feel.
Where are the
Jocelyn.
vegan options? Jocelyn says in the trash.
In the
Ouch.
trash. Wow.
Ouch.
Looks like Matt's not invited to Jocelyn's Super Bowl party.
No, apparently not. Carnivores only invited to Jocelyn's Super Bowl party. All right, another great question we had in the chat. And last chance now, 833-288-0973 if you want to dial in. Favorite Winter Olympic sport?
You're asking me first?
Well, I'm not asking myself.
I thought you were just going to go ready for it. I got one for you, though. You ready?
I've got several. Go ahead.
Snowboard cross.
Yeah.
Snowboard cross is the coolest Winter Olympic event. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. I mean, don't get me wrong. But if snowboard cross is on, I am watching that 10 times out of 10. It's awesome. It's a great event. Obviously, United States is really well in that event too, but snowboard cross, super in on. I also like the biathlon where it's like alpine skiing, like the
shooting,
the alpine
cross-country
the
and
alpine
shooting.
snipers that you got walking around in the in the Olympics where they shoot the gun and stuff. That's pretty cool too. And it's amazing how good those. I mean, all those athletes are just insane, but it's amazing how good they are when you have to cross country ski uphill for miles and you go back and then you have to quickly hit 5 targets while you're trying to catch your breath. It's pretty cool.
Objectively, I prefer the Winter Olympics to the Summer Olympics.
So do I. Bobsled's great.
If you gave me just, a list and a good, not good, a dividing line, I'm going to put most of the Winter Olympic sports on the side of good. And things I look forward to watching every time. Now, let's not ignore the hits here, okay? Olympic hockey is incredible.
When the NHL guys get to play in it.
It was even great when it was, the U.S. irregulars against the Big Red Machine back in the day. But absolutely, a fully fledged, a fully NHLized Olympic hockey tournament is objectively incredible.
It's better than an all-star game, right?
In every possible way.
Those guys go
it's
hard
better.
for their countries more so than the division they represent in the all-star game.
Short track speed skating is incredible, and I love the short track speed skating with everyone just whizzing next to each other and their
That's
hands
fun.
down on the ice and zipping and zooming. The bobsled.
I love the bobsled stuff too.
Bobsled is amazing. Absolutely dig the bobsled. Look, the ski jump, for something that is inherently terrifying and always holds the possibility of actual death. I think the ski jump is spectacular. And every single, now, would I go search out a ski jump when it's happening some other time? No.
You want to go to Park
No.
City and watch it?
No, I mean, I'm sure it's great then too, but it's the whole idea of like, I do this all the time, but every 4 years it actually matters.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like that is what makes the Olympics so exciting. So right there off the top, those would be the ones for me: the short track speed skating, the bobsled, certainly the Olympic hockey tournament, but it's ski jump. But listen, you can give me a list. I mean, I'll even check out the biathlon. I'm not going to tell you that I'm seeking out the biathlon actively, Braden, but I will check them out with their funny uniforms and their speed, their cross-country skiing, and then settling their heart rate down to snap out those tiny little targets.
I do like the bobsled a lot too. And the United States has gotten a lot better at bobsled also, which is really cool to see. I know we had a local here in town that was doing it for the female side in the last one, but the bobsleds have been fun to watch too. There's a lot of good Winter Olympic sports. That was the last one we just did, right? We got the summer ones that are next, correct?
Yes.
Those are 2026, the LA ones.
Well, that'll be fun.
You watch flag football.
Really?
Where the United States is going to just destroy everybody because the NFL athletes are encouraged to play in it, and a lot of them want to. So could you imagine it's going to be like the World Baseball Classic. You're going to have some teacher in the Czech Republic trying to cover Tyreek Hill across the middle and 7-on-7.
Yeah, it's going to be like the 92 Dream Team where they're going to asking for autographs from the team before they play. Not down for Olympic flag football. Not interested. Not curious.
I'm super in on that.
Don't care. I mean, they're going to win every game by $1 billion.
Got to grow the game, Craig. Got to grow the game internationally. Keep growing the game. That's how you grow the game. You get other countries to participate in the game, not just having two random NFL teams, aka one NFL team and the Jaguars play in Germany.
All right, we've got the appropriate length of time for this, Braden. Would you prefer to have nipple-sized fingers or finger-sized nipples?
I don't know how to answer that question.
I think it's very straightforward.
What is your answer?
Quite obviously, you'd rather have finger-sized nipples. You could wear baggy clothing and jackets and cover up the shame of that. If you had nipple-sized fingers, how can you hold anything? You've got little paws now.
Like in the Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah, now you just have little paws, nipple paws. I don't want that.
What a great way to end the show. Talk to you tomorrow.
Annie and Elsten. Quinn and Chris are next on The Fan.